I love my Verizon on this thing. I don't have any problems.
We're almost ready to start. That's what Peggy said about the bicycle. We're using old ones.
I didn't have time to stop for coffee.
So we got
Should we call Jim?
no, he knows what's happening. Should.
He said he could, yeah, we'll talk to him.
You help us pick the date.
Nobody's here.
All right, call the special meeting back into order at 5 o'clock. And then we will go into a recess and open our public hearing, or
Gotta close it now.
close it. And then go into our public hearing.
Hearing. Okay.
All right, so this is the same budget that we had last time. Only difference is I fixed some misspellings, and on anything that was professional and contracted, I kind of tried to put in a description of more of what it is, as opposed to just professional and contracted services.
So this one, the one on 80,
Yeah.
that's not just for the audit.
It's not, it's the only thing that has been paid out of it.
Oh, is it? No,
I'm pretty sure.
Jim and I went through that. There was more than the audit paid out of that. Oh, that was for the, sign. It was for the kitchen, when we had the update,
Okay.
when we had the kitchen smashed, wall smashed. So that's what it was for.
Well, wouldn't that be under the, 'cause those aren't, I mean, yeah, they're contracted services, but I think they're more
Oh, no, that was for
under
the
capital
building.
outlay.
That was for the building, that's right.
Yeah, 'cause there's.
Because the audit's only like
Yeah.
$5,000.
Yeah, that was the only thing I found in there,
Okay,
but I can review it and edit the name.
okay. Cause I mean, if it's gonna be used just for the audit,
Right.
we don't need that
Yeah.
amount of money in there.
Okay, so nothing else has changed on page 1?
No,
Page 2. Any changes on page 2?
I labeled the snow removal versus the lawn care for the.
Terribly sorry, folks.
Okay.
What? And labeled the assessors, professional and,
See it?
charger, I did not change, cause I'm not sure what that is for.
Well, that assessor fee's gonna have to go up.
Is he raising his prices?
No, because I just paid the bill and it's 16,000 is what it ended up being. I don't know why it was short last year. Oh,
He had stamps on his last bill. Why does he get paid in 2 categories, wages?
he doesn't get paid.
He gets paid in wages and he gets paid
He
in
gets
professional
paid,
contractors.
he gets paid Gunner gets paid wages, and the Michigan Assessing Service is a contract service. So that goes to Michigan Assessing Services, not to the assessor himself. page two.
We're on page 2.
Anything else?
No changes.
Page 3? Okay. We still can't get rid of lines when there's nothing on them. We can't delete that from the program.
We can't delete it, we can inactivate it, but sometimes it still shows up anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I tried to take some of those out today. Still didn't.
There's no problem. Okay. Any changes on 4?
Nope.
Hey, Dayton, is hazmat fee ever gone up?
No,
Okay.
that's what you guys with the city
Right.
of Traverse City, which
Right.
right now may go away. Because the city of Traverse City is part of the whole Mavis thing with everybody else that just got their new, they just got typed, so their certification
Okay.
in that it may go to Mavis, our Mavis division, to fund that.
Okay.
I don't know, it's a thing between the city and the fire chief and then the city and state, because there are Region 7 hazmat teams that got state grants and funded. So all that money is supposed to go to the fire department, and what I heard is it doesn't.
Oh,
That the Traverse City chief only sees like a quarter of it.
oh,
And so I don't know if it gets misplaced, but there's a lot of townships, you're like at 400 townships, I don't know the exact number, but a lot of townships in this in this Region 7 area that pays that. So there's 13 townships.
there, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money based on what that stuff costs.
Right,
Like
okay.
a suit that only lasts like 2 years because it's a level A hazmat suit is like, I don't even know the price, but I know it's really expensive and they hardly ever use it. It's almost like a waste, and then all of their.
It's a waste
machines have
till
to
you
be
need it though.
Right, all the machines have to be recalibrated every year and all that stuff, but it's a big thing because a lot of chiefs have brought it up in the Mavis meetings with all this. Because it's not that you're not, if we call the hazmat team because we have an incident, it's not that we're not gonna get a bill, we're still gonna get a bill. This is our contracted services with them to help maintain, basically for their
equipment.
for them to come to us, right? And we're still gonna get a bill, but then we have our billing, our cost recovery, we can just return that bill to the person who had it, so.
Are there any changes so far?
No,
The only thing I've changed was,
some of the names.
some of the names, like, I fixed some misspellings that were on the line items, and then the professional and contracted services, I tried to give somewhat of a description, not that, I mean, like on the last one, I think it says lawn care on those two, and one is LA and one is L, so it cuts it off anyway. So maybe I'll just shorten it again, but.
Jim, do you understand why why there's that fee there under Department 336 for fire department? It's not mine, the township pays for it because it's a contracted service with the township and the city of Traverse City.
Right.
Okay.
Alright, so, cemetery trust, yeah, that's,
Can't make people die, so we can't make any more money.
So no changes on 5. That way we'll.
yeah, just switch to 6.
Okay.
Um, Countryside. Road knowledge.
Okay. Let-
When is our bill for the work that we're having done next year coming?
The bill won't come till the work is done, but, once they lock down their contracts, we'll find out the full amounts on everything.
Okay. We think it's gonna be around 103, 104?
It will probably be a little higher, but, whatever the big one will be reimbursed, so
Oh, yeah,
they have to get the tax ready, the final total to them first,
that was through the paper.
yeah. But they did get everything down a lot lower, because, Mullen decided to bid, and that made numbers come
Go
down.
down.
Good.
Yeah, Mullen wasn't planning on it, but I guess decided they wanted in too, so. 206 fire fund.
I'm taking 216 and,
Did you
You didn't
circulate
make
my
any
proposal?
changes,
I
did you,
have.
Dayton? You didn't make any changes in your budget, did you?
Well, on the old one that we looked at, the last meeting, there was 72,000 for wages.
Yeah, we moved that.
Supervisor didn't see that I gave him a sheet and changed numbers. So I dropped it to set to 65 and put money elsewhere.
Okay.
Did we have your proposal for the,
Well,
this one? Yeah.
yeah, I had a number of proposals for it. And I thank you for sharing on-call fire departments. A good read if you should do it. And if I can, sorry, I'm still a little shaky. This is under the chapter of financing the fire department. Subtitle Controlling Fire Department Expenditures. And I would say that actually, while it's written about the fire chief, I think it goes equally as well to the board and any departments that are submitting a budget. In part, it says the fire chief should be expected to develop a proposed budget and justify to the board all proposed line item amounts, which we have partially. Proposed expenditures should not be pulled out of thin air or be simple inflations of current year expenditures. Proposed budget should be based on a plan that anticipates department activities and needs. And in our last meeting, I know that it was mentioned that we always, set the budget high and try to come in under it, which is certainly better than going over budget consistently. But for governmental agencies and nonprofits in accounting, the target is to propose a balanced budget and be within striking distance. No one expects perfection, but needs to be close. And if you look at the last 3 years' actual experience with, I'm sure, a little bit more coming in since the budget was printed, we got a little bit more in March. The average surplus is $58,000 a year, which is, roughly speaking, about a quarter of the whole budget, which is off by more than an acceptable amount in terms of accounting. And what I did is went through and made my adjustments. I also implemented all of, Fire Chief shared his changes with me a little over a month ago, implemented all of his. But what I was looking at was not making a budget based on previous year's budgets, but the last 3 years' previous year's actuals, which is where I came up with the figures that I did, along with an explanation of the line changes that I made. It still sufficiently funds all of the activities and also provides a contingency fee. Is actually higher than I would like to see it, but, you know, it's about 5% of the overall, no, I'm sorry, 10% of the overall budget. Which certainly, you know, as a contingency fee can be moved around anywhere needed in the budget. And by no means am I trying to say this is how you should run the fire department, because it isn't. I think you have a skill set that dwarfs the collective boards from the standpoint of how things should be run. But it certainly doesn't short any department, covers all the expenses, and provides a surplus for the, well, I shouldn't say surplus, it provides another revenue stream, an additional $15,000, just in the 2 department chargebacks that I found, plus the increased rent. That, you know, I know there's a lot of discussion about increasing salaries of the board. You know, my question is, when that comes up, is where's that money coming from? Where are you pulling it from? And this is one of the ways we can identify those funds for board salary increases that you're looking for. But in 2 particular areas, one I know, you know, came down from 72% to 72,000 to 65,000. Originally, that was a 100% increase over the average of the last 3 years' predicted activity. And I think that's both high from the standpoint of projecting, but also if you look at it from the standpoint of, and I understand the argument that the fire chief is making, that he wants to put some people on to just sit in the firehouse. And while that's an argument, I don't see, I have not been convinced of the value of doing that. And especially with a budget that apparently we've been getting along for the last 3 years. The other area that is a market increase is the rent. $6,000 is an absolute nobody's heard of bargain. And you know, I did not pull numbers out of thin air. I did some investigating of what commercial space, you know, low-end, low-cost warehouse space in the general area is. And the only close one I could find, which is down in Visick, is a huge warehouse, over 13 times the size, very well built, that even at that huge discount rate, because of its square footage, is $6.50 a square foot. The going rate in Benzie Traverse area, Benzie County Grand Traverse area, is closer to 11 or 12 bucks, north of 12 bucks a foot. So just saying $6 a foot, you know, the proposal is to raise it from $6,000 a year, which is $1.50 a foot, to $24,000 a year, which doesn't really even take into the full account of the roughly 2/3 space that the fire department takes up in this building. And if we're going to represent to the public the real cost of operating a firehouse, I think we need to represent the real cost of operating a firehouse.
I think part of what we were trying to do with the whole budget thing with the fire department is to try and be having some money put aside to when we have to replace the trucks that we do have. So we didn't think it was that important to charge the rent if we could keep the money going for equipment.
Is that prior to having a millage for equipment?
No.
This
That's
is
included.
this is a completely separate budget. This is a budget for operations. I'm not talking at all about a budget for equipment. We have a millage to replace equipment.
Yes, we do.
So what you're saying doesn't apply to what we're talking about right now.
That millage isn't gonna cover those trucks.
No.
There's other equipment that their daily equipment, all that stuff that.
In your research for this square footage,
Mhm.
which I'm not down to you, and like I for business areas, did you contact any fire departments and see what they pay? So did you contact Benzonia and say, hey, your fire department's part of your township hall, what do you guys pay? Do you guys pay any rent? Are you charged any rent? Did you talk to Thompsonville? Did you talk to Homestead? All you did was base this, if the way that I'm hearing you right, is you got hold of a realtor, whatever, and saw what the square footage go for commercial space, correct? You didn't contact any other fire department to see what they do in other townships?
That would be interesting, but you're also making the assumption that they're paying proper rent.
I'm asking, what do they charge?
I don't know.
But you didn't do that research, all you did was find out what it costs total, correct? I can tell you that Homestead pays nothing.
Okay, and that's Homestead's decision.
That's their decision, right, but.
Is
if you're gonna
Homestead,
give out the
Homestead
actual
running a
stuff,
25% surplus,
Uh,
overcharging their taxpayers?
I don't know.
Well, you should find out before you say they're charging nothing. I mean, we can go back and forth on the what ifs. I didn't rely on just my own opinion.
I know, you said that you contacted somebody, which is totally fine, and I'm for that, and I don't mind paying the rent. Like I said before, I know this was a steal. Well, why am I gonna say anything, right? If I know that I'm getting a great deal, I'm not gonna say anything.
What I'm trying to work toward is representing to the public what the fair operating costs are, because I know that we have ongoing villages, and just as a resident, let alone as a trustee, I've heard the desire to build new facilities with sleeping quarters. And if we're gonna do that, we need to know what our real costs are. And, whether it's a warehouse or this was a warehouse before it was a fire department. So I don't see why we're trying to find out what other fire departments are paying within their arrangements, within their township, is directly applicable as finding what the lowest cost warehouse space, open space, and this is also industrial space because it was built to support heavy machines.
Right.
I don't think it invalidates at all that I did not check with every township fire department to see what they were paying.
No, it didn't validate, it was more of, did you check to see if they do? Do they do the same thing we do? Are they way below? Are they way high? Are they right on?
It would be worth investigating,
That's all I wondered.
given the timeline that we were given this budget, and the amount of time I was able to put into it. I'd love to investigate that, and certainly will for next year's budget as well.
Okay, I have another question for you. I just got this evening, and I'm wondering, did you get together at all with him to
Yes, I did.
ask the,
Not with the new updated changes.
Not with the updated, because I was directed by the supervisor to send them directly to him and not distribute them elsewhere. These were made available last Thursday. Why you're only seeing them now, minutes before we're supposed to be making a decision, is beyond me.
Well-
It's this holding back of information.
no, wait. I came in to get everything out of my mailbox, and this was not in my mailbox.
When did
and I
you
got
come in?
Oh, boy. Last week, I don't know what day last week.
This was made available Thursday, so if you have issues with it, talk to Dave, don't talk to me. I was instructed to only give it to him and not to make
Okay,
it
well,
available to everyone else.
here's my next question then. As far as I know, it's not the responsibility of trustees or anyone on the board to put together a budget for another department.
I disagree.
I don't see that we
It's
have.
our responsibility to
Let me
overview.
finish my thought, please. As far as I'm concerned, my knowledge of what is needing for a proper fire department to run and everything in there, I'm not qualified to do that. And even if I sat down with Dayton and talked about it, I'm not sure I would be able to come up with any logical reason why I should change anything that he has. That's like asking a surgeon to come in and teach me how to play the piano. To me, it does not compute.
I disagree.
Well, okay, we disagree.
You may not be qualified, but there's nothing that I've done on this budget. I'm not saying I know how to run a fire department, but my numbers more accurately match as they should, prior year history, not prior year budgets, but prior year's history of activities. And in no place have I shorted the budget. In a number of places, I agree wholeheartedly with Dayton's changes on what the budget should be. So, and I totally disagree with you as specifically as a trustee. Part of our fiduciary responsibility is oversight of the
I
township.
understand that.
And if what you're saying is true, you shouldn't make any comments about any budget issues.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
It's what I'm hearing.
You're hearing incorrectly.
Well, I apologize for that. Please restate it then.
I just got a question on, you put $3,000 for communications. You were basing that on the years prior because we didn't quite spend 3,000. But, you can ask Rose, we just had to pay for a new portable.
Okay,
She got the bill, the portable's $4,100 that the board agreed to pay right before you got here. And
Okay.
it's taken a while to go. That's why that's at $7,000, in case I have to buy another one, because all those portables that we got, 6-7 years ago from the FEMA grant, they are out of warranty, and that one died, is more gonna die. That's my sole reason. Now, we can keep it at 3,000, and then you put that extra money into contingency, that's fine and dandy. I don't have a problem with that. I see what you're doing. I don't have a problem. The same way as at the very bottom for vehicle equipment, you put 4,000, I did 10. Did you ask, am I planning on buying, do I know what I need to spend, that we're getting new equipment for the truck? I have to buy foam this year at $165 a pail, and we usually get 10, because it's just easy numbers, to be honest, and then shipping's outrageous because it's liquid. But that's gonna be to the $3,000. That's why I raised that, so I could do that, plus we have to get some other equipment that we're starting to go. But we can keep it at 4 and then take the money out of the contingency, that's fine. I see contingency as miscellaneous, that's how I see it, and you have a problem with all these accounts with miscellaneous.
As I just said,
So
it's higher than I'd like it to be.
Right.
If you had provided with your budget numbers, the descriptions that you just gave, I probably would have included the numbers that you originally put in. That's part of my issue with this entire budget, which in February was dropped on us at the last minute after a 3-hour plus meeting. Oh, and here's the budget. I still haven't seen any line item descriptions of any of the items that should be included in any budget, be it governmental, nonprofit, or business budget. You don't just get to throw numbers out and say, yeah, that's what I want, without defending it. And I think we're falling way short of our public responsibility to describe it. If you want to change those numbers now, I have no problem taking it out of contingency and adjusting the numbers and making the contingency number lower.
I understand what you're doing, that's why I said I'm fine with it, I was trying to tell you what those were, but
And
he never came to me.
I thought you two met.
We met, but he didn't ask what that was for, what those were for. I told him that out of the equipment, we buy equipment for
But
the
you didn't
truck.
volunteer that either.
He didn't ask, and at the time.
It's not my
I
responsibility,
just
it's your
trying to understand.
responsibility to describe it. You know, and let's do a better job this coming year, but, you
And I
know,
would describe it if we're at the board, that was meeting with you, and the way that I understood that whole meeting was, you didn't know what these were for, and you wanted a better understanding of the fire department. Great, that's what I did, you seemed happy, we didn't go any longer, which we could have. So when the board comes, when we have this public meeting, this is where to do that, right? So everybody can hear it, hey, why do you have $10,000 in here? Oh, I gotta buy at least $3,000 worth of foam, there's $1,200 for a jumbo wide Siamese, there's another vent fan, there's this, I can give that to you. If you want it in writing, I guess that's what I needed, and we've never done that before. So you're bringing in something new, but didn't tell us that's what you wanted until now. So I can do this, you do exactly what you did.
you can hang it on me for being the newbie that doesn't know how you've done things, but one of my least favorite retorts to anything is, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with, I don't like that either, you're very correct.
You know, from the standpoint of the way things have been done in this township in the past, if just tossing out numbers and having verbal conversations about them has been the way it's done, I think things need to change, and I think that'll be part of the policy discussion that we have in updating a policy that I don't think has been updated, and I don't even think is the correct one that's posted since 2009, that has handwritten scribbles on it, missing at least 4 appendices, because appendix D is referenced, and I can't find any appendix A, B, or C, let alone D, and we've looked. You know,
Absolutely.
again, I take my fiduciary responsibility as a trustee very seriously, because this is over $1 million budget. This isn't my money that I'm spending, and I take it very, very seriously. And, you know, the reason I made the adjustments, in part, I didn't have time to get back to you. I should have made time, we should have made time. In this coming year, we will make time. Because I still want to learn more about not just the operation of the township, but the operation of the fire department, so that I can make informed decisions. But the decisions that I made were based on actual performance, funded the actual performance, didn't short anything, I don't believe, and still have a surplus in contingencies of nearly 10%, well, of over 10% of the budget to pick and choose. And this is a budget. You know, and part of the discussion I'd like to have about, wages, salary, which is the line item, wages part-time. If we have an inordinate number of a plane falls out of the air and sets a bunch of homes on fire.
Yeah, now you're thinking like me, don't do that.
It doesn't happen. The township will absolutely understand that, oh my God, you've tripled that, what happened in 2024-25? Well, we had that horrible accident and, we lost 7 homes and, just, people will understand that. We have in the past, I've been in budget meetings over the years, where adjustments to the budget are made throughout the year, and those can be made.
Absolutely.
This is not cast in stone.
I know. It's a personal thing with me, is I don't like making budget adjustments, because then it tells me that I see it as a failure to me, because, I could have budgeted $8,000 for this, but I said, no, it's only gonna be 4, and it came out to be 9. I see that as a failure with me, and I didn't represent this township well, because I didn't stay within my budget for that line item. Not so much the budget as a whole, but the budget for that line item. So that's how I feel on that. I don't disagree with what you said. It just, it came as a shock when I come in on Sunday afternoon and see this, and I have a day and a half to sit here and go through it and review it, and like, okay, I see what it is.
You saw this on Sunday?
I believe I picked this up on Sunday.
Or didn't see it until just this week?
Maybe it was today that I got it this
That
morning.
was on Thursday, on Thursday.
I printed them out, I put them in
I
everybody's
was
mailbox.
busy over the weekend, and I didn't stop here,
Well,
or I stopped here, but I didn't come into the office.
Rather than thinking of it as being over your budget or under your budget, think of this more as darts where you're going for the center. How close to the center can I ever come? And on some line items, you're gonna be off. On others, some you're gonna be over, some you're gonna be under. What we really wanna look at is the net, bottom line for any department. How close are we to predicting the future? And no one's expecting or anticipating perfection. But being off on average by $58,000 is a big miss.
I have a question about the wages, the part-time. If you take it down from 65,000 to 38,000, what are we paying our people? What does that do to their?
We haven't paid more than $36,000 ever in wages.
Yeah, you have gone over 36.8.
Right, so
So it's not gonna change their wages at all?
No.
Okay.
Dayton, I just have a question regarding your line items, and and I'm sure that you have this, and I don't, just knowing you. So you must have, like your radios that have to be replaced every 5 years. You must have something like that. Like, do you have something organized in that? Like, this fire equipment has to be, you know what I mean, but, okay,
Yeah, radios don't have to replace every 5 years.
for 10 years.
The radios don't have to, it's just, we had one fail, is another one gonna fail? It's because they're 5, 6 years old, or was it that one just a fluke?
Okay.
That's all.
But
I
you
was
do have
looking
some
for.
equipment that has to be erased, or that's not under the big equipment millage, that has to be
Well, any
updated
equipment
every,
would be- Yeah, like fire gear, yeah.
hoses.
It's every 10 years, whatever, yes. Hoses,
So how do you budget for that typically? Do you increase that line item for the year that like you have to replace every,
yes, so a couple years ago, if you look, I don't know if it's still here. Where are these? Looking at 2022, it was 31,000, right? We bought a bunch of sets of gear.
oh, okay,
And then it was 8,500 because we bought another set, I think, because we had a new person, we couldn't do it. So then I budgeted 10,000. I've only used 1,099 because we didn't need to we got a new person, but they fit in the old gear. But I don't know that, and
Right.
it has to be fitted.
you can
So
only hire
I
somebody
leave,
that fits.
so that's why I put $10,000 in it. Now, we can put that someplace else and we can buy gear off the new equipment fund. But that takes that down, so then I'm not gonna have enough money to buy a truck in 10 years.
No, I
So
was just
tried-
curious
that's
if you
why I tried
had,
to play with that.
like a long-term budget for how you finance those things that have to be regularly replaced.
Yeah, just like I do with the new equipment fund. I haven't shown, Dave's seen it because he's seen me when I've been back there working on it. That's worked out through 2048, I think, with this based on this current money that we get, like the 106, but before it was 93. Had to see what we could do and have punched in, we need to get tires. Well, where do I get tires out of? Well, I'm planning on taking it out of the, replacement fund. Right, AEDs probably need to get replaced, and I'd like to replace the AEDs, but then take the 4 that we have and put one at the park. Put them out in the public so they're there, but it takes, and I was gonna use that, but we could use the new equipment fund. We have this money that we're getting back from cost recovery, might we spend it on the stuff that makes things so.
So we
Yes, I have plans on that.
So we should probably go through these lines and see what we wanna change.
I do the budget for my company. We have a board of directors, we have committees. The committees want money. They tell me how much they want and why they want it. If they want twice as much as they wanted last year, they have to say why. So when I present the budget to the board, it looks like this, and there's a line item on the side that says increase due to change of location. Decrease due to actual, or whatever. One year we spent $5,000 on a Christmas party, and the next year we spent 30. And that was budgeted, because the current president, but that's explained in a thing, and I think that's the communication is, we all know Dayton is great at what he does, he knows what he's doing, he's saying all this stuff, I'm like, I don't know, he's always done it well, he knows what he's got down to the penny. Jim is looking at it from a budget perspective, he sees the number, why are you tripling this, with no explanation? So the explanation doesn't come until the board meeting, it's frustrating, so my thing would be, it would be nice to see his budget with an explanation. I have to buy whatever, or I'm saving for a truck, or something, and I think that would be good for not just the board, but for people like me, because I look at this stuff and I'm like, okay, that's a lot, and I'm seeing the same thing, I'm like, okay, you only spent 35, why do you want 65? If you roll line wanna hire people, it's, you know, trying to grow, that's the kinda, and I think that's basically what we need. It's confusing, there's a lot of little piddly accounts, this is insane. If my board wanted this many accounts, I'd be like, no, I'm putting it all, like, they don't get this many accounts. So, I can see why it's frustrating, but that's the thing, I don't know who else, cause, like, is there a cemetery group that they give you a budget, or is Rose doing that? Like, it's weird that the board is doing all the things, and then he's the only one really presenting.
That's because it's my department, where there's not a head on like the cemetery.
Well, it is,
Well, but I mean.
but
she has to-
it's a
Right.
additional duty that she does, so she does the budget for it too.
Too, right? The fire association has to give their budget. I just have a
Bigger
good
one.
amount of it because it takes a lot of money to run a fire.
Yeah, and I appreciate that Jim is being so
Oh,
thorough
I-
and questioning, and I appreciate that you're not feeling like attacked, because I do think he is just trying to learn, and I
No, I-
appreciate
I-
all of you for, you know, because we all, well, her and I, we wanna learn too, you know what I mean?
If that's what's wanted, I need to be told that,
Yeah.
so then I can do it.
Right, but if you've never seen a budget before, then you don't know that you want that, do you know, so it's,
Right.
Yeah,
First time you've ever got- right.
I've seen the budget and everything else like that, and
not like
I've
this,
done
but.
with it. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
In part, that's why I read the whole thing out in the book, and I thought that's one of the reasons Dave gave me the book.
I was cleaning up and I had 6 copies of it, so I just kinda stuck them in mailboxes.
and that's fine. I just need to know what the board wants, and I don't wanna throw that up. I've never been asked to do that.
Right.
I didn't know, so
Well,
this is how I've been doing it, so.
to go against everything Laura said, would it be helpful, like, if we added a line item for like truck savings? Like, no? I know you don't want.
I mean, technically, you could do
The
a
contingency covers that.
You can do a
Yeah.
transfer out, and then every year, so the fire department, I was downstate, they had a huge budget. Every year, they transferred out $75,000 to this fund to buy a new truck. And they had a new equipment, because the operational fund can pay for a new fire truck too,
Right.
because it didn't quite make the full amount.
Mhm.
So every year, they transferred over $75,000 into new apparatus. But that's what they did.
Right.
This is
I
the
tend
general
to-
fund, it's none of the
This is the fire.
villages.
Right, that's the millage.
His is
Fire
village.
operating.
There's actually a millage specifically for this, for the
Mine,
operations of the fire department.
Okay.
what I was doing with Linda was, if there was $50,000, I would ask her to transfer over money into that equipment replacement fund, the 402 fund. So we could pay for truck tires and that kind of stuff to do that. That's what we were doing. I hadn't done it the last couple of years because we had needed that fund balance down a little bit.
Right.
So now we've worked it back up.
Yep.
And,
Well, and again, that,
because I know a lot of people don't like to have that fund balance at that percentage. It's hard for a fire department or whatever, because when something breaks, it's expensive. You
and
gotta have that.
And I think part of it is also just educating the residents, our citizens of how things operate. But if we're taking, if we have, and not all townships have both a operations fund and an equipment fund. Some appear to be blended together, I think others have one or even the other. If we're taking from the operations fund and giving it to this fund over here, as a citizen, not as a board member, I'm gonna say, well, why are you charging me that much for operations when it's really not operations, it's equipment? You know, you should have either charged me, what I'm,
Yeah, I see that. I see it.
bias that I have in all my working life is, and part of it is that I'm a statistician, is trying to look at, and in essence, trying to do what you're saying you're trying to do. What's the most realistic picture of this operation that we can present, both as a budget and also to explain it to the public? And if we're taking this money and shifting it over here every year, we're in essence presenting a false picture to the public of what it takes to operate a fire department. What I'm trying to do is get down, and it's never gonna be perfect, I understand that. What does it really cost to operate a fire department? And if we have a catastrophic year, because, again, not trying to tempt fate, the fire engine pulls out and some steamy drunk falls into the truck, there goes the truck and other equipment, we need to replace it, okay, it's a big ask. And we're gonna look at where we, within the township, can we pull numbers? That's explainable to the populace. But operating on a year-to-year basis, and it may have been the way it's been done in the past, and I'll challenge that, is the way, not the way we should do it, is if we've had overages, we keep moving them over here as opposed to saying, well, maybe we should adjust the millage next time it's up, based on our long years of experience. Or if there are needs, you guys ran 3 times the number of calls for a variety of reasons. I can sit here and explain it to a room full of people, don't nail Dayton, this is why it happened. But we have to have these conversations, and moving forward, hopefully we'll have more of them. Because I don't think there's anybody in the township that knows how to run a fire department better than you do.
Yeah, and that's what all I need is the communication, what do you want from me, and I'll do my best to my ability to give it to you.
I don't just want it from you, I want it from everybody that's presenting a budget. And one thing is an aside, not for conversation necessarily for this public hearing, but Therese brought up a very good point about essentially capital expenditures. Our policies and procedures call for a capital fund budget every year. We should be tracking anything that as I recall off the top of my head, over $2,500 in value, and maybe that number should be adjusted for inflation over 15 years. Let's say it's $5,000 of value, but very much to Teresa's apostrophe point, it looks like we got 3 more years left on this widget over here. And our phones have been working fine for the last 5 years, but I talked to the provider. He said, yeah, after about 7 years they start dropping off. You'll lose all of them in another 5 years. Let's adjust our budgets. That's the kind of thing that we should be doing that I don't believe we have been doing. So
if I'm reading this correctly, what you're trying to propose is that basically the numbers on the bottom here, if I'm reading these correctly, the estimated revenues, they're basically staying the same as to what,
He's just moving the money around.
I'm sorry, what?
He's just moving the money around the account.
Yeah, but I'm saying the amounts of 217,600,
I haven't
It's
changed
been-
that.
I'm sorry?
I have not changed that at all.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, that it's, from what we have on page 9 of 17 to what this is, there's only like $1,000 difference. Correct?
Yeah, it says 216,463
Yeah,
on our budget paper.
right. So, I'm wondering if we should just go
Well,
ahead.
that's on your budget paper. The estimated revenues for the Fund 206 is 217,600.
Yes,
I have a balanced budget of 0. Dayton has an overage, a surplus of $1,100. Dave has a surplus of $7,000, because all he did was knock wages and part-time from $7,200 to $65,000.
You can't have that, the budget has to be balanced. So somewhere in there, it's not showing that it's represented
believe I changed anything in the supervisor's proposed budget,
So,
other
it,
than,
yeah, it
other than the
has to,
65.
now, did it come out of budgeted use of fund balance?
Yeah,
So that's what's not on there.
yeah. You kept the budgeted use of funds at 5137, and
Yep.
in Dayton's, the newest budget that I didn't have when I did that,
Well,
or, so,
I had so many versions of the budget going around, I think the one that I worked off of was the Excel version that you had sent.
yeah, and that was,
So should we go through this and,
I'm
Change
Just
wondering-
look at the ones that are starred that are changed.
yeah, and see what we wanna do with them? Cause we can talk all night and we won't get
Right.
anywhere until we start actually doing something with the budget.
but I guess it's, my big one is the chargebacks. The people voted for the fire department to get this money, and I understand your point of, this is just their cost of operations now, but I feel like it's the township taking from what this is the problem everybody has with the Headley Act, is they don't want the county commissioners to be able to say, oh, well, normally this was funded through the special millage, but we rolled it into the Headley Act, so now if they don't use whatever, we can just take it from them and put it here.
Does the same apply to rent? You've been charging rent,
Right,
same argument.
right, and I
disagree with your interpretation of the Headley Act and moving that around. We're not taking from estimated revenue fund directly for no reason to move it over to buy a new TV.
right, I understand.
We're sharing expenses in a building, and we're charging the fire department for it. And if it's been proper to charge them rent, even though I would argue an incredibly ridiculously low rent, it's fair to charge them for anything else that is justifiable. We have two accounts, one specifically called Township/Fire Department, that, one I'm taking 5.8% of that figure, and the other I'm taking 19.8% of that figure. Those figures may be wrong, but I don't see anything incorrect from a legal standpoint or an accounting standpoint as a chargeback to the fire department for their use of shared facilities.
What are those, cause it just says chargebacks.
We've
So
never
can
used
you tell me
chargebacks.
what they are? Is it electricity? Is it propane? What is it?
It is a whole host of things, and this is a meeting that I had with Rose.
And wouldn't that all be under rent? You're gonna charge me total for this?
No,
Or
because,
you want it separated? That's
well, roughly speaking, you have 2/3 of the building. Just under 4,000 feet.
Right.
Add your office, it's about 4,000 feet, but add the bathrooms, add this meeting room that you use for training, and the kitchen that you use. Those are not, if you wanna pile it all into rent, I could be dissuaded. I think that's sloppy bookkeeping. I don't think I'm just saying, but, as far as the governing body, there's worker comp for the entire board that gets charged. We oversee the fire department, maybe that's a little thing, supplies and so forth. Other service charges, website, fire department ordinance, ads in the paper that, you advertise for help, correct?
Not in the paper?
Not in the paper, well, that, take $10 off for that one. The professional and contracted services for things being cleaned up, lawyers' fees, and then in Department 268, which is the
Guilty.
township office/fire department, we've got janitorial services, janitorial supplies, professional, lawn care, snow plowing, phone system.
I don't have a phone, I don't use the township phone.
Electrical for the entire building, gas for the building, building repairs, toilet heating, AC, miscellaneous, fire extinguishers throughout the building.
I paid for mine and you guys paid for yours.
Okay. So those figures may be off a little bit, and as I said, I'm not opposed to,
No, I was just wondering what
Making
those were,
adjustments.
because I don't even know what they are, right? So by you doing this helps me out too, of what's everything, you know what I mean?
which is part of going back to the conversation, and I think Laura, spelled it out pretty well. We need to understand what these line items are all about, not just these short abbreviations of gibberish that everybody kind of looks at these and goes, it's like doing your taxes. Who wants to do them? Only a crazy person like me is gonna sit down and go through it and say, I don't get it, explain it to me. But I see that as part of my responsibility as a trustee.
And I'm not saying it's not.
No, I'm just
That's why, I
explaining.
mean, like I said before, to other times, like communications, where it's the phone, radio, et cetera, we can do an individual line item underneath that for, one for phone, one for radios, one for pagers, so it's to find out more. But then, I'm gonna budget one for each one, right? And we're gonna be in the same boat as, well, this year I didn't buy a radio, so I was over 4,000. Next year, I'll budget for one, because I'm always gonna budget for it to buy a new one, and we needed 3. I mean, you're always gonna have this. Whatever you guys do, I don't care, I'll work within the budget that is given to me.
Right.
So that rent line, from what I'm hearing, is we've been charging them $6,000 a year for rent. But we've been paying all the utilities, basically.
Yep.
Heat, water, electric, sewer, all the things. Now you're saying we wanna raise your rent and charge you for your utilities, basically, with the list of things. Is that simplified version of what?
To get a true cost,
and-
what
Get a true
the
cost.
fire department would
You've
cost
been getting
to operate on its own.
$6,000, it
Yeah.
really should be costing you.
And to answer that, the rent and the advice that I got from a commercial professional is based on just the space, not including bathroom, kitchen, and common meeting room areas. So it's just, warehouse space, fire department space, rent.
Well, they have
Some-
their own
some-
bathroom.
Some places incorporate in their rental fees, everything else and office space, and that's thrown in. I was purposely trying to keep them separated. Again, just trying to reflect to the public what the true cost of operating a fire department actually is.
So with that understanding, can we go back to the lines, the ones that are starred, to see if we need to make a change on the budget sheet that we have?
Yeah.
So the first one was the 65,000 going to 38,000. That would be okay with everyone. And then you skip down to the, what is it?
But if we,
FICA.
I
FICA.
think workman's comp needs to change, because I don't,
Well, FICA first.
I don't, FICA first.
Yeah,
FICA comes down to represent the 38,000 and not the 60.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 5490. But the
but where are
workers'
we
comp-
putting
Make
this money?
decision. Are you planning on giving the firefighters raises this year at all?
I was not, no.
What
So
was your
why
question,
was the
Dave?
justification for 65? You just wanted to
I-
hire more?
I needed a
I've never
place to
agreed
put
with the
extra
rent.
money that I got.
He just said, oh, it's okay, it's fine, so I've left it on there. But I definitely don't agree with,
Mr. Eros.
15,000
Well, let's,
going from the voted on fire millage to just, I just don't
I'm
agree with it.
confused at what you're saying.
I'm not following what
He's
you're saying.
jumping
either.
to rent.
Just period. we're lowering all these numbers,
Mhm.
and then the money's just gonna go into the township budget.
We're
No.
lowering the budget numbers, the experience numbers are more than covered.
So you're saying that because we passed an operating millage, that 100% of the operating millage should just go to them, there should be no rent, no utility charges, no nothing.
Personally, yes.
Well, what he's,
But you have to pay somehow to operate your millage, like everybody or your fire station, right? So
Right, most townships pay it out of their general fund. Their millages don't cover
No,
everything.
they don't.
I don't believe that's
I don't
true.
believe that's
So
true at
what-
all.
where the money's going to, is going to contingency, and then there's 15,740 that's coming back to the governing body and the township offices and fire department. That's not rent, that's
No,
Is
it's
that
not,
right here?
it's not going back to those departments. If you read the paper that I wrote, I'm suggesting that we put in Department 000, a line item for those return funds.
so we return them to,
They have to go into revenue.
yes,
They don't go as a chargeback to the department from which they
No.
were charged, which is what I heard you just say. And it's not coming out of the contingency. The
no,
contingency
I
is,
didn't say that. Some of your money that you're taking from these is going into contingency, and then the rest is going down into those, right?
We did last year that way.
basically.
We did that last year. Then we brought it to the
And
change to
again,
place.
we're making adjustments to the budget. The budgeted numbers that I'm proposing cover the operation cost of the fire department as experienced over the last 3 years. I don't think there's a shortage anywhere.
No, we see that, I think.
Well, that's not what I was hearing from Dave.
No, I'm just saying I don't agree with,
With the rent.
well,
And he's entitled to that opinion, and that's fine.
the rent and, yes, and I understand the chargebacks,
No, they're not chargebacks.
it says chargebacks.
It's not in the chargebacks.
That's where he put it.
Right.
It's just under there. It's actually a different,
Actually, I didn't put it with chargebacks, I put it, since it doesn't have a department number and it didn't have a line item, I created a line item for those two things.
Okay.
It has Sheriff Department 101, Sheriff Department 268.
So there's just not separation in the line on there.
So is this where the
just
rent would
cross
go
out
then?
chargebacks. No,
No,
Rent's its own line.
right,
Right.
so if we go through them one by one, like we did, and then we can talk about it. So we've got the 38,000, and then the
Well-
5490 for FICA, and then we're down to work comp.
Yeah, and you said you needed to change work count from 2,500.
These are these not in the same order as on here? 'Cause-
They should be.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so you want to change this 10,000 to this, okay, I got it.
The workman's comp, I'm not doubting Rose, but I think Rose has not been taking what's appropriate out of
Nope.
line. If the bill is $10,000, I should eat more than half of that because it's mostly my people. And I don't know if it's all taken out, and I don't know if the
It
last
is.
one came.
With the changes in the way that they did the W-4 form, is it the W-4 forms for withholding for the FICA? It is complicated and most people's are turning out.
He's talking about work comp.
I'm not talking
Oh,
about-
work, okay.
Yeah, it comes divided that way on the papers now.
Oh.
It really does.
Oh, okay, because the one year, it's not here, it's not on here, but I think it was 2020, we forked out $8,000.
Yeah,
Did you have any claims? Cause if you don't
Uh-uh.
have claims, it's cheaper
No.
every year.
Mhm.
so that
We had a clean last
That also
year.
takes calls, I call Adam, and he also helps figure that out,
Okay.
so.
Nope, then we can leave it at that, that's fine, that's why I put that there.
But kinda wanna, yeah, I was kinda thinking 3,000, but just because insurances are going up.
I know, that's why there was extreme difference from the 10 to the 15 when we get down further. So where we at, we're at workman's comp,
Yep.
Yeah,
at 25, okay?
and then your clothing one didn't change.
Where we at?
It's at 3,000 on clothing,
Wait,
clothing and uniforms.
Yeah, because I don't have a surplus to give to new people when they get here, so I need to order some.
And then communications, we took down to 3,000. But I would think that would need to
go up.
go up
If you have radios, you have to replace.
to at least
I
6,000.
I don't know if I'm gonna have to.
Well, it
Did you
costs,
say you already ordered one?
Right, but
That's-
That's in this
Okay,
year.
okay.
it cost him over
That's right, okay.
$4,000 for the one he just got.
Because one failed, but I can't tell you that one's gonna fail. So I
Right.
always like to budget to be able to get one, but
Well,
Jim doesn't like that.
no,
And
it's
so-
it's
No,
not a
that's
matter,
not, that's what I'm getting from this.
No, he's
it's
saying
not a
that if
matter
you
of
wanted
like or
to
not. I
say
look,
that you-
can
He
I-
had the old figure.
Let me say what I did, and it's not a matter of like or not like. You look at communications radio, in 21, it was $2,985, then 2,651, then this year, somewhere around 774 was the number I had. It's not a matter of like or dislike. 7,500 for 2023 was high, 10,000 for, the Dave's budget and yours budget didn't seem to fit reality. And I just looked at it, and 3,000 is more than any of the previous year's experience, covers 2021. Maybe it should be higher because radios are more expensive. Maybe radios are less expensive and have more features now, like a lot of electronics. I don't know, but it's not a matter of
No,
like,
no, I
like or
didn't,
dislike.
I didn't mean like that.
It's,
I saw what you did, yeah. That 774 is not represented well here because that bill just got paid and it probably doesn't show.
$5,192 is the total activity for,
5,000 what?
5,192 is the activity.
So,
That right now, because we had to buy a radio.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so when Jim wrote this up, the activity was at like 1,100,
774.
774. But now with that, it's gone up.
Because basically $1,100 is the phone and the internet for the cat computer. Because it's about $89 a month times the 12, yes.
so what figure would you like to see there?
3,000 is fine.
Okay.
Because a lot of that extra money's gone into contingency, so I'll just hold out there if we go.
Then equipment and vehicle repairs stayed the same at
Well,
3,000
go back up a line.
Which one?
Preventive maintenance?
That's 20, didn't change anything
Well,
on
I know, but it started, and I'd like to comment. Even though I tried to be consistent in application, if you look at the preventive maintenance for the past 3 years, it's well below $20,000. But in our conversation, Dayton mentioned a couple of things that are gonna have to be handled this year. And I left it at $20,000, which is what he said, so, again, I'm not trying to be punitive, and I'm not trying to be picky. I'm trying to follow good guidelines for budgeting.
I understand what you're doing.
Now
Now that I kind of see it rather than when you were talking last week or whatever, now that it's here,
Mhm.
I can see it better. Because I'm more of the visual.
That wasn't directed at you, it was directed at the board.
I'm just telling you.
And that's perfect. These were left at the fire chief's proposed level to assure things are
Right.
properly maintained. And then
Right.
the clothing, as he plans on replacing previously provided. So this is a good sample of what
So,
you
yeah,
should give to the board and just say, change this and here's why, or, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and next year, believe me, I will. I just,
yeah. So
Yeah, you've never been asked to do it before.
equipment and vehicle repairs, they stayed the same
yeah,
with that
I
same
stuck with-
explanation.
Stuck with Dayton's.
Yep.
yeah, and, I mean, I just gave her a bill for, which I'm over. because
$166.
I know, but once again, I hate it because I'm older and gotta do a budget. I know,
Again,
it's
don't-
just, it
Don't hate
bothers
it,
me.
just be able to explain it. I had planned on this, unexpected, this came.
Well, it's been going on for a long time, and it's finally, I had to fight with them, and finally they took it and goes,
Fixed it.
oh, all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but you're charging me extra, it took you this long to do it, but it could only have taken this long to do it if you would have done it 8 months ago, instead of saying, well, just put air in the whole department and take out the compressor out of the truck. No, there's a leak, and we finally got it handled out, and that part, I gave you that bill, Rose, to pay, but that number may change because we're still in phone conversations about that bill.
Here, let me show you my fire hose.
Okay, and then the rent, we can discuss the rent, 24,000.
Lowered the silver bar, 48,990.
I'm open to discussion about rent,
Yeah.
but what I researched, $6 a square foot is still a bargain. $1.50 a square foot is more than a bargain. And again, we need to represent to the public what the real operational costs are. Rent happens to be one of the, top 5 operational costs, or should be.
I guess I don't have a problem with, changing the rent, as long as everything else in the budget is all taken care of. And it seems like, with what we are presented with, that it is. I kinda have the same feeling that you do about rent, because it's so much of what we do for the whole community. I kinda saw it as, we just laid low with that because we were
Yeah,
concerned with other things, but
The township took on the idea of providing a fire department.
yeah,
There's a cost to the township too,
right,
and
The fire department is part of the township. It's
Oh,
not,
yeah,
it's not a
yeah,
completely
we know.
separate, well, you're treating it like it's a completely separate entity, like a charity organization that we're giving this space to.
no.
No,
When,
that's
when
the-
all this,
that's the
no,
basis
when
of
all
your
this
argument.
started in 2009, it was a hard thing to build it up from scratch, and
I understand.
we were trying to make it so that we could fly with it, basically.
Mhm.
So I think that's why we didn't do much with the rent, because we were all one building anyway, and it was still gonna get paid. So that's why I think that it was kept at that low rate, because it's gonna get paid anyway, it's gonna come out of the general budget to pay for the rent for the building.
You're missing the entire point of what I'm trying to get across.
No, I understand
No,
what you're,
no,
no, I
no, I-
understand what you're saying, Jim. I'm trying to explain where we're coming from,
If it's
where
gonna
I'm
get-
coming
If it's
from.
gonna get paid for anyway, should I lodge a campaign for
No.
the next
Jim,
millage?
you're not understanding what I'm saying.
I'm
trying
understanding
to
completely what
explain.
you're saying.
That doesn't sound like it to me, Jim. I'm trying to explain where we were coming from, not where we are. Where are we coming from? 2009,
Okay,
how we tried to get this whole thing off the ground,
okay.
and all the work that went into it. I went to different fire departments. When Walter something house was in charge of Walter
Frank
House,
Walter House.
Walter House. Yeah, when he was in charge of the fire department, I talked to him. I talked to the main guy in TC who was retiring, trying to get all the numbers put together. And we were trying to, like, help a child walk. And so part of that was why we kept the rent so measly low, so we could build things back up. I'm not saying that's where we are now. I'm saying, looking at the budget that is here, it's still basically the same budget. So yeah, if you move it from this to this, and you're still coming out with the same thing, I'm fine with that. I'm just explaining why we had it so low to begin with.
All right.
prefer that, I guess.
Well,
Or do we want to go up to 24?
isn't that a big
Fair.
problem? I mean, like, we have too much money that we don't know where to stick it, that, what does that say? That says that we have too much money, which is in itself also wrong. Right,
Yes,
so,
because we can, a few years back, that's why we bought that property, because
but that's acquiring assets for the
Yeah.
township, which is again putting more money in the township's pocket. So
Yeah.
who are we here for? The township to raise a whole ton of money and own half the township, or for the people of the community?
well,
mean, really,
that's what that's
it's
not what I'm
crazy.
saying, but that's, we had
Well,
to
yeah, we
spend,
buy more property.
we had to,
So
we
don't
had to
want-
spend money
That's more assets.
because we had
More than the
over
FDIC.
$600,000 and it had to go somewhere, and where were we gonna put it? I guess that's where the board decided to put it, okay?
What
And
does that mean?
so now we've got to figure out where we spend it
Well-
again.
The township doesn't set the tax rate,
No.
right?
No, but we set our budget, and when you do,
Well,
yeah.
No, we do,
Actually,
we
do
can
set
set
the
our tax rate. And
Up to a
being new
certain
to this
point.
last year, I just went with what it was gonna be set at by the county. But now looking at what, you know, the budget and everything like that, it's not till September that we get to choose, but yeah, we don't need to, I mean, it's, what are we at, like 0.74? We don't even, we don't need to take that much. I mean,
Well, it goes to
And
show
honestly,
that
the
the board
property
is good
taxes
at
are a small part of our
not
income.
wasting the money. If you're
No,
able to
they-
save
they
it,
raised
you're
it.
not wasting it.
Right.
But now the question is, okay,
We didn't have
do
any
we need
savings
to use
at
it
one
for
time.
something?
Right, we didn't have any savings at one time, was my understanding. So they raised the millages up as high as they possibly could years back to build up a savings, but now we've gone drastically the other way. And there's been no steps in between that, raising it to trying to balance it, because technically you should have a 15% fund balance. We have 167%. That's a little absurd.
Maybe we could do a better Christmas party.
No, I mean, I totally agree with, I mean, honestly, the auditor tells us we need to get rid of money again. I'm not gonna look for property to buy. I'd like to get rid of some of the property we have, but then that'll just bring in more money. But,
Yeah,
We
but
can-
if you bring in more money like, if we bring in more tax dollars on taxes, then, because we sell that property off and we're getting a tax dollars every year for that property, now we have a new number to budget with, now we can make salary adjustments, now we can make plans to add on to the building or to invest for a new building. Now we have things that we can actually do instead of being,
right, I'm just saying about,
just chunking it away in the bank, that's just stupid.
but if we sell the land, that's what's gonna happen to the money initially, is it's just gonna go into the bank. But, I mean, honestly, I could do this budget without the income tax portion from the township.
So
And
let's talk
we need
about
to look
rent.
at that.
Yeah,
But-
go back.
Let's talk about rent.
Real
Seems like
railroads.
it's money.
So, I don't have an issue with increasing it, but I don't know if I really wanna increase it to 24. That's my opinion, and
When the going rate in the area is twice that, I still think it's a bargain.
Well, we have to balance his budget somehow, so we
Right.
can make adjustments down the road, so we can move it to 24,000, we can do some more research when we have more time.
Right.
And adjust it from there,
And rent doesn't come out till the end of the year, so if
plenty of time to adjust.
it could,
Into the fiscal year, calendar year.
fiscal
fiscal,
year.
usually in February.
So, I mean, not that we would just be putting it in a holding pattern, but if the plane falls out of the sky or whatever, we can always just later say, hey, we're gonna
Waive rent and transfer that back to the fire department. Or,
I would say the optics looks pretty crappy because we're cutting salaries and increasing
Right.
rent.
No one,
I mean,
And
the optics, if someone
If
wasn't
somebody
sitting
looks at
there
it,
and all
yeah.
they did was,
They'll look at it and say, you cut everybody's wages in half.
and you want
we
the
didn't
red
cut
money.
wages in half.
No, but that's how.
But that's the numbers, I'm saying,
Right.
if you just look at the numbers
Yeah.
without this discussion.
If you don't look at any of the past, you just look at,
Right here.
Which gets back to my whole point.
Right,
of
I know.
We can't just throw out numbers because that's giving the wrong impression to the population. And if you're gonna use that argument that it looks bad, I say it looks bad because you don't have any descriptions to go along with them, and that's our responsibility too.
Well, because we raised it up that high to begin with, because if you
Why
look
not
at
make it
past
100?
history.
Why not make it 100,000? Why not make it 200,000?
So let's,
We've got excess funds. I mean,
no, I understand what you're saying, Jim, but
Yeah.
Mary's rolling her eyes at me though.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that you're not understanding what she's saying. But the general
I'm
public, no.
understanding full well what she's saying, and
Okay, then let's leave it, okay, as long as you understand
so
what
do
she's
we
saying.
want the rent to go to 24,000? Or
We
more?
can, and then like we say,
Well-
if we need to change it, we can.
We're at 48,990 right now that we've taken away from their budget. So we gotta put that money somewhere. So I say yes. Cause that's only gonna eliminate half of that.
Everything that the trustee has produced, we haven't changed the number, correct?
Correct.
So we haven't needed to put it, well, the general
Well,
fund needs to adjust,
Except for the,
not mine,
your.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the
Yes.
general one, correct.
Yes,
because everything else has stayed the same.
correct.
Right, but in these numbers on this proposed budget from Dave, these numbers, we are taking $48,990 from there.
So the 24,000.
I'm not looking at that, I'm just looking at that, I didn't see that. Okay.
And then, is everybody cool with that?
Yeah,
So then we got property liability insurance.
for 11,000.
It was at 10.7 and it's then, from what I heard, it's going up drastically.
The insurances are going up, yes, so
That's why.
I think that one does need to actually bump up.
I chose that based on the 10,700 that we went up. And I thought that,
so change that to 15.
I don't know what it's
keep
gonna
it
be.
keep it at 15.
Probably,
Which is
because,
3,000 more than what has been
Oh, fire
proposed.
chief proposed, yeah, and Dave proposed is 12.
From the 10,654 is what we actually spent.
so do we wanna put it at 15?
Leave it at 15?
what was it, was it on a contingency?
Yeah,
Okay.
drop contingency down to at least 18,470. Assuming there are no other changes for the last three lines.
Well, currently, there's nowhere to put those other two lines.
You'll have to create,
I need board approval to create new line items.
Yeah, we're gonna have another special board meeting to approve this budget. We're gonna have to.
I can't just create numbers because
Well, can we make,
Wait a
underneath rent
For
is,
the-
you're
this-
telling me to create a budget, we
No.
can't create line items? I find that hard to believe, we're creating a budget. We can strike something.
You're saying you can't adjust this?
No. Well, you can, but I'm gonna wanna see that he did it correctly
Well, then I'd say put
before
it in
we
chart
approve
maps.
it.
we didn't do that last year,
Because we
thank you.
changed all this stuff.
You wanna see a final draft? This
Oh,
is
yeah.
first.
Mine wasn't changed,
Oh, okay,
So that's
so you're
why I
asking
didn't.
for, okay.
but I wanna see this
I think it should be done too, but I
all
don't know
out
that this
before make sure that everybody got what they were thinking or whatever, or there was no mistakes.
Right,
We don't have time.
Yeah, you got until the 31st.
You have to have 7 days notice in the
Six.
paper.
Six days notice.
For what?
Before the 31st, you have to put a
For,
public hearing.
for a public hearing. This is our public hearing, this is the changes. All you have to do is set a special meeting to approve the budget.
I think he's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we're discussing it here with the public.
But,
Now to approve what we discussed
We-
is a special board meeting.
well, this public hearing is part of a special meeting.
You have to have a meeting to have a public hearing.
Right. You have to have.
No, you do not.
yeah, you do.
No, you don't. I checked with the MTA
What?
today. You do not. The public hearing is part of a special meeting. Specifically.
But it wasn't called a special meeting, it was called a budget hearing.
No, it's called a special meeting / public hearing.
Anyway, let's get back to the budget.
So we're gonna,
If you don't wanna put in new line items, just add those two lines together and put it in chargebacks. And then figure it out sometime later in the year.
so contingency is,
Is this a public hearing?
Yeah.
yeah, the contingency is gonna stay, at 22,470. Because it wasn't 1,000.
But it does say,
No, it has to drop down.
Hearing down below.
The contingency would have to drop to 18,470 if we're not changing the other numbers. Cause we're changing property liability, we raised it by $4,000.
I think we need to change the, price for equipment on the vehicle based on what things that I was gonna get for the fire department to put on the vehicle, i.e. the phone, the, jumbo signees to go with what we're doing with all the other round townships and to have equipment on the vehicle.
Alright, so are you thinking above the 10 or just above the?
Now, just leave it at the 4, and we'll just take it out of contingency, because I don't have the exact price.
Well, if you have,
Yes, I guesstimated, so it's not an exact price, it's not close, so I don't want to be completely wrong.
So we leave the equipment at 10? Was that
you just said leave it 4.
4? Okay.
You wanted it at 5, which is what you originally proposed?
I originally proposed 10.
Dave did 5.
Oh, Dave, yeah, okay, yeah, oh, yeah, that's right.
Because, the guys brought up, blowers for wildfires and for traffic cleanup. Handheld blowers, like
Yeah.
backpack blowers, and all. So if they work really well in, wildfire situations, you can cut a line and you can help put out the fire. And then in a traffic crash, instead of booming,
Dustpan.
it took me 22 minutes to the accident in front of her house and Rose's house. It took us 22 minutes with 3 people to boom off the thing. Well, now you just go, woo, and that's, so I was like, I never thought of it. And then the guys brought that up. And I was like, oh,
And then
that's
we,
a great idea. And I thought about it last year. And we talked about it, because
and we
Denise
still
had
filled the dumpster.
Milwaukee days, and I did my normal self of, and hummed and hawed and then just let it go, and then it became winter. So now it's come spring where all that stuff's coming up, so that was the thought, but, I mean, I can always take it out of the equipment fund.
Now, is somebody,
Well, I don't think you should take things for regular operating expense out of that. I think it should be safe for, like you said, for new trucks and new equipment. Big equipment.
has
The little
somebody,
things should be paid out of here.
sorry, has somebody added up all of the changes here, so we've got a grand total at the bottom, because I did not bring an adding machine with me.
That's why.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank
I
you.
know it. Be another meeting. Go to
money we make besides the 4,000?
All right, yeah, have a good night.
We changed property liability from 11,000 to 15,000, which would drop contingency to 18,470, and everything else adds up.
What about the 4,000 for the,
Equipment,
truck, yeah,
Yeah, that's what
for
you
the
had.
equipment?
That's
You
what
got
was
that
there.
too?
Yep.
Okay,
All
oh,
right.
I see, yep, looking at the wrong sheet.
Alright, my only question on this is between what we have on the budget and what Jim ran his numbers off of,
Yeah.
you were taking an extra 1137 before out of your budgeted use of funds. Would you rather keep it at 4,000 and then lower your contingency? Or do you wanna move it back to the 5137?
But,
your revenues,
That's not how it would work. If we're moving back to the 26,463, that would all come out of contingency. You have to lower that number to make it balance.
Right. But like right now, we're at, his total is 216,463. That's with 4,000 coming out of balance or budgeted use of funds. Whereas
It's what I'm,
the 217,600, he was taking 5,137 out of budgeted use of funds. So if he wants to raise that back up, it'll put us at the 217.
which then you'd have to take out a contingency, but, you know, this is the problem with multiple versions of the budget going out. If you just stick with what I proposed and drop, if we're dropping back to the 216,463, take 5,137 off of contingency in your balance.
Okay. That's all I was saying, is if you wanted to do that, or if you wanted to draw that money out and
I'm
have a
lost.
contingency.
okay, just add it up first, then we'll,
The total will still be 217.
The 217,600 is based off of the 5,000 in the budget, the 5,137.
Right.
If we want a true accurate thing, then we should take out the 5 and really only do my budget at the 212,313 plus the 50 for contributions and 100 for reimbursement. So what's that come out to be? 150. So really, we should only be spending 212,463. Is what I should only be spending to get the true cost of the fire department, because that's the monies that is coming in. I shouldn't use any money in the budget to use fund balance.
You can spend your previous year's fund balance. is
I
your
know I
budget.
can, but we're trying to get a real accurate, so let's use the real accurate base off the real accurate monies that I'm getting.
So what do you propose to do with the money that you have in the fund balance right now? Just leave it there?
Yeah, it's gonna leave there unless we have to go over, or I choose to budget fund balance, so next year, what if I wanna get new AEDs, we can take out of that fund balance that we have. I guess I was lost, so I was lost on what you said about take it out of the contingency. If you take it out of contingency, it's still at the budgeted use, so you're still at the 217, the way that I see the paperwork.
Well, I guess we need to settle on what estimated revenue for Fund 206 we're gonna use.
Of the fund balance,
212,463?
that was usually there to balance the budget, so if I
I'm-
go over the 212,463,
I'm just asking, what number do we wanna use for revenues? Bottom line.
I don't know, I thought I had it, but it's
Well,
got talking,
We keep
changed
talking,
14 different times,
That's-
so I'm kind of lost on the whole
I
thing.
think we all are. Do you wanna use your budgeted use of fund balance or no, $4,000? It's up to you.
It's not up to me because
Yes, it is.
this whole thing got changed and it's not really up to me. I gave you what I wanted. But obviously that wasn't good enough or it didn't reflect good enough for you, so you guys changed it and we're going with what you all did. So why did I even do my budget? Is my question.
I don't think that's the right question. Question I have for you now. Do you wanna use your $4,000?
I don't know, what would
Fund
you like
balance.
me to do, trustee?
I'm
Because
asking,
you're my boss.
no, I'm not your boss.
The whole board is. So what does the board wanna do? Do they wanna use
I'm
$5,000 out of my budget or not?
Please don't be obstinate about it.
I'm not, I'm asking you back the same question.
Don't answer the question with a question. Would you like to use it or not? Do you have actually zero opinion about it?
Right now, I don't, it's either or.
Then I'd leave it in.
I don't know. As this sits right now, I understand everything you have here and what you're trying to do. And maybe it is my fault because I didn't put out a budget or I made changes in between. I feel like this needed more review before we implement this.
If that needed more review before we implemented it, the whole budget needed more review before we implemented it.
But we are where we are and we have to do it by the first of the month, so
And if you don't, you can't pay bills.
you can't write any bills.
So that's right, give us a total of that, and then we can decide what, if the budgeted use of funds needs to go up, down, or whatever.
And if we're gonna approve this tonight, can we take a recess and Dave put all those numbers in so I can have a printout so I can see it? Because I'm not understanding this as we're just making marks, I got too many marks, so I can't understand this.
If my understanding is correct, the only line item that we've two line items that we've changed. Property liability insurance to $15,000, which is a $4,000 change. And estimated revenues dropped from 217,600 to 216,463.
Okay,
So, let me finish. So if you take $5,137, which is that total, subtract it from the contingency, that becomes 17,333, and everything balances at 216,463.
okay, based on what we have right here, correct?
No, he's looking off of his,
I'm looking
because
off,
I was doing what you were doing and then my
Yeah,
notes
so,
were back.
so that's where I'm off.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go off of this budget that we were handed.
I'm looking at the adjustments based on what
Okay,
I
so a
presented.
lot of all these numbers have to be changed.
Mhm.
A lot of them.
Yeah,
Let's
I've
see,
got 'em all
1,
written
2,
down.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, sorry, maybe less because we
Yeah, I've got
kept 1 or 2.
14. I
So,
found 14.
yep,
Let's make
So-
all the changes and then if you want it typed in, then,
I need to see
I don't wanna
that.
be here till midnight.
Well, neither do I. But I need to be able to see
I
it,
don't-
that it's typed in correctly so I can say, yes, this is good. I can't. Because if we're just gonna go off of this with just those changes, then it's totally different than what he proposed. And this is what we're voting on. Not the proposed.
Well, if you make the changes the way I've made them, it should balance at 216,463.
Wait a minute, I thought you got 217,600.
You weren't
You weren't
listening.
going.
I was listening.
No.
I had said, I don't understand this.
I
You
said,
just got done
I
explaining how it had to do that.
listen, I said, going with the revenue of 216,463, we add $1,137 to the 4,000 that we increased to the property liability insurance. We take $5,137 out of contingency, dropping that to 17,333. Everything balances at 216,463.
I'm lost.
Anyway, I understand, but
Well, when he types it in, maybe you'll see it then.
That's the only changes throughout the whole budget?
Well, we haven't done the rest of it, but
Right.
with that one.
Alright. Parks and Rec.
I think 15-1, it's been 15-1.
Fire Association.
I have a couple questions when we look at these, line items on this Parks and Recreation, just because we've not done them since I've been here, so I'm curious. So the professional contracted snow removal, how often do we do those bids, and when is our next bid up?
Next year,
So for the 2024, 25,
we'll need to do them for,
and is that the same for lawn care?
yep, they go through this year, and then they all have to be redone for the next.
Okay, and what about maintenance? Who are we paying for maintenance overall for parks? Or is that just the park committee paying for that out of that fund?
So the repairs and maintenance, yeah.
We don't have a maintenance per se guy.
No, if, Bob sends us a bill, we pay it. Sometimes he just does the stuff and doesn't worry about it. Dave will do some maintenance over there too, and
I'm just trying to understand how we, okay, and then what about cleaning? Is that on a contract or is that an employee
cleaning where,
for Bendon here? Cause that's part of this here. No, cleaning for the buildings, Bendon in here.
oh,
Yeah, those are in there. They're,
No, I'm just asking how those are paid. Are those hourly wages, are those,
it's a monthly rate.
and is that a contract that we did bids on, or is that an employee we hired?
We hire the employee.
yeah,
You put bid, not bids, but you kind of did bids, you asked for.
They
you
did
put stuff out.
applications,
Yeah.
we
you
did
put-
interviews,
Yeah, did interviews
And
on
we-
people.
hired them based on this much per month. That's, I don't,
And so we raise that when they ask for a raise typically?
no, we raise that when the board decides they want to increase their wage.
Okay,
what figure you on?
She's
Oh.
back.
I'm just asking for the general, I'm making.
Sorry.
She's back, she missed it when we did.
No, I did it when we were looking at this for the parks, I wanted to
Oh.
understand how that was paid,
Okay,
the snow plowing and that sort of thing.
okay.
So where are we at?
Fire Association.
page 11.
Page 11.
No changes.
Equipment Village.
No changes, right?
No.
Okay,
Planning and zoning. The big stick out on this one is the planner. The-
from the Northwest, whatever, network,
Networks Northwest.
yeah. I said it backwards.
Aren't they doing like everybody else is around here too?
Yeah, well, they've already contracted like with the area, so like anybody else has to pay them for like adjacent places.
Oh.
That's why they can come in so much lower, but
Just as long as they don't propose a light industrial area like they did in
don't think they proposed that, I think they were.
Yeah, they did. They actually wrote it into their master plan.
Right, but I don't think that was the planner that did it, I think it was, right, I understand the planner wrote it in, but I think they were told by either the planning
No,
commission.
I was actually at that
Oh,
planning
really?
commission meeting. I was asked to attend,
Okay,
and they went, what? Because they wanted to put it just north of Oakley.
right. Oh,
They pulled it out.
okay. I thought that was the board's idea.
Nope.
Covered the butt on that one.
Special events this spring.
Yep.
Elder suppression. American Rescue, yeah, that's all set. Equipment replacement. That should be good.
Yeah, cause he's not buying anything hefty this year.
Yeah. Okay. Last I could like.
Yeah. We'd probably lose a board if we could go to.
We still have stuff to do.
What's that?
Did you wanna recess and put your numbers?
That's fine, I trust you and I'll just figure it out.
Oh, I gotta make sure we have the right number for
Yeah,
For our
216,
general appropriations.
63.
There's no sense of being here that much longer, just to get that.
I gotta have the numbers for that.
Cause you're just gonna have to add numbers in on your thing too, so it's gonna take a while for you. Cause you gotta add line items for those two.
Yep.
So, you got probably half hour to an hour probably of work. And I don't wanna, just because I wanna, see my budget, I don't wanna stay here that much longer and hold everybody up.
Well, thank you.
So it's 18, yeah, 18,000.
What are we looking at?
I don't know what he's looking at.
Well, for the rent, going up 18,000,
Correct.
Oh,
we won't be balanced.
Right, so we have to put that money somewhere.
And that other stuff too,
Other stuff.
those two other line items that don't have line items, so you gotta add those
Oh.
ones in there too. So really, it's like $34,000.
33,740.
Just didn't have.
15,740 of that need to be put into Department 000 revenue to reflect the charges of 101 and 268 to the fire department.
So basically, the reassessment of everybody's houses, my taxes went up $34,000. I generated $34,000 more this year based on everybody's assessment and everything else. We didn't raise taxes. But my millage went up $34,000 was going back to you guys. So actually, I'm not operating at a different amount.
Simple fix would be to put a, in the governing body, the contingency fee or some other township offices, fire department. You already have a miscellaneous.
Well, and there's some things on here that like, we budgeted for $5,500 in these local community stabilization shares that we have to pay every year, and we've never paid, well, we've never paid that little. We budgeted for $5,500. And our activity to date is $8,624.
Which page are you on?
I'm on page 1.
Did we just recently pay that?
That's a revenue.
Oh, this is it, okay. Oh, so you're, okay,
Oh,
never mind, I
that's
looked at that,
incoming.
because I'm on this. So you're assuming we're getting way less than we are getting in a lot of these already.
Well, I don't think that number was there when I did that. And historically, it's just been over 55, so.
We haven't gotten any money in for that lately, we got money in for, the one thing that was, the filth money, that was, that's the only addition that we've gotten in there. And that was 18,000, so that's not bad.
I don't mean to ruin your thing, but I just found something else on mine too.
What'd you find?
Well, if you go under, income, under interest and dividends, there's $50 and I generated, over $9,000 in interest.
What page are you on?
Nine, on the top half. Sixth one down says
Oh, yeah.
interest and dividends. And it's got $50 and I really made basically $10,000
Yeah.
in interest. So either we just leave it and then just, or we change it to try to,
We can always make budget adjustments throughout the
You
year.
never know when Michigan class will take a dive.
well, I know too, that's why I just wanted to make sure.
Right.
But, hey, you're right, it's just gonna go in the, it's not even gonna be in there to use, it's just gonna actually be in the, put into the fund balance, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to make it so more legit.
So what are we trying to accomplish at this point?
We have to find a place to put that money that we are
Well,
transferring out of the fire department.
18,000 goes under rent, so that's 24,000 now.
So which page is that on?
The very first one.
Revenue,
Oh, there we
rent,
go.
Where? Let's see.
So we have-
It says
667.000.
6,000
Oh, okay.
so then we have $15,740 that goes into a new line item.
No, not all that, right? Because you wanted one into 101, so actually,
No, they don't go chargebacks to the department, they get treated as revenue. It's weird government accounting.
right, but it goes into revenue under 101 or revenue under 268.
Goes in as revenue under 000, the very first line item, just like rent. Rent comes out of the fire department, it goes into 000.
000-667-2685, right, Department 101.
Department
101, yeah, but
Yeah, just like on the top on here, you have Department 366 for my fire fund.
He also
Mine
has
is not.
000.
It's,
but we have a 000 at the very top of this. If you look, that's what he's talking about.
Department
right,
000.
Department, which is wrong, you should say Department 101.
101 is below it. Right,
So that would have to
Just the
be
way it's broken
for, 422,815 if we added the 15,000 for the rent. Cause we're adding $9,000 there.
we're at 18,000.
We're adding 18,000 to rent. From 6,000 to 24,000 is 18,000.
Yeah. I can put down 15.
We have a balance of 15,740 from the 3,340 and 12,400 from departments 101 and 268. The only place that I can figure that they go on this general ledger is in Department 000. Now, if you have to create a line item for it,
Because it's cash coming back in, so yeah, it's 000.
Well,
Right.
if it's, so let's see.
Right, so, and I would,
What about putting it in reimbursements, because it is a reimbursement for what they have, what they're using, and what we're paying for, they're reimbursing us back for it.
I'd rather like a separate line item to define what it is.
Right.
So it's more appropriate for the people to see that the
Mhm.
fire department's giving.
So both revenues would go in the 101 fund, but,
Well, if you put it into a revenue there, then you have to put it into an expense that's being paid for technically by you. Like if you're giving us $500, round off, towards the light bill, you have to show that $500 going out towards the light bill. Right?
Exactly, yeah, that's
Right,
why
so
I
that's what I'm
said
saying.
this is
So
gonna be a
it has-
huge whole
it
mess
is.
by doing this, yes.
And
Why don't we just create a line item reimbursements hyphen fire department right under reimbursements?
Yeah.
And put in $15,740.
But then where are you gonna expend that?
We have
well,
that
we're
in
being
there.
reimbursed for your costs, so it's still gonna,
The accounting is a two-step thing, we're still bringing the money in, then we'll figure
Well, I
out
was thinking farther along rather than right
Yeah.
where we're at.
then we have to figure out how to spend 33,740. But if you create a reimbursements,
they're gonna add reimbursements underneath here.
if you create reimbursements hyphen fire department, put in 15,740, then the net of revenues changes to 447,555. If my math is correct.
$447,555.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand it.
I can understand myself, that's okay.
Okay, and then we have. $33,740.
For building.
For overage in the 101 account now.
Put it under government body.
Can we call it the 000 account, since all of the following departments start with 101, and governing body is?
Right, the 000 is the revenue,
Right.
so we have, that's what we have
Mm-hmm.
as an overage for the whole 101 account now.
Well, I just put it in the Department 101 government body.
Okay.
Put
What?
it in,
Contingency?
yeah, or what, capital outlay. Because that, it is for the governing body, otherwise you're gonna have to figure out how much is going in supervisor account, treasurer account, clerk account, deputy account.
Well, it should all go, well, that,
So if it goes
that
up,
15,740 should show the expenditures on the stuff that the fire department's paying for within those things. So like electricity, you should say out of that 15,740, 10,000 of it's electric. 2,000 to help pay for snow plowing. So then there's accurate of saying what, I gave you 34, I gave you 24, we already know that's right, that covers that. So now I'm giving you an extra 15,740, we need to show, I would like to show, so you can show the public, hey, by the way, the fire department pays for this amount, the total electric bill is $34,000 for the year, $10,000 of it is from the fire department.
I agree with your sense of wanting to do a breakdown, but you're missing a step in accounting.
What, that's what we're talking about, is the expenditures, we already found out where you're putting it.
We've charged the fire department, that's where the expenditure is. I agree that they need to be more clearly defined in the future.
Why don't we do it now, while we're discussing it?
We
That's,
wa-
we're discussing the budget, let's
Let
do
me,
it now.
let me finish. We finished discussing it, and you've agreed to have the fire department charge that amount. We now have that amount, we've put it into our revenue.
Correct.
You can't just put it back into a cost of what's already been defined as a cost over here, while in a different department, we've already defined it as a cost. We need to, in a sense, you're trying to double charge the fire department for it. You know, what would be more proper, and it's not allowed in government accounting, would be more proper to say, of that split, the 3,000 goes to this that we're charging to the fire department, and 3,000 goes to that we're charging the fire department. But we can't do that.
But like, we're asking you for a breakdown of what you are going to spend extras that you're accounting for in your budget, right?
Right.
Give us that. At the end of the year, when we know the total cost of electric, we know the total cost, we could tell you what you paid, a percentage of that, same kind of thing, right? Because once we know those numbers, we know what you paid, yeah, we can, because we know what, at that point, at the end of the budget, at the end of the budget year, we'll know we paid this amount of money for electric, and if we're charging,
But you're not showing how much you're putting in. You only showed you're putting in 15,740 as a total, right? That's for all these lawn
I know
care,
what you're saying.
electric and everything. So we did a total of all that stuff cost us $50,000. I put in 15 of it, so I put in, I'm just using numbers, 10% of what it costs to maintain the facility.
Right.
But out of that $10,000, how much really did go to electric? You can't do that unless you set up line items to pull that out of.
We've currently estimated that.
Yeah,
You could
give an estimate, but
the income to the township now does not get broken down again as an expense to the fire department. You're missing a step in between.
No,
So can we just put it in
you need to
capital
show
outlay?
where it's going out at.
Well, you can put it wherever you want in a sense, but, you know, governing body would be the most sensible place to put it at this point.
Under capital outlay.
Well, is it,
Yeah, but if I.
but if it's for the township
$15,000,
office /
oh,
fire
you
department,
can't tell me.
Other services.
but it's not for,
It's,
yeah,
We have to put it somewhere.
yes.
I've charged Therese $5 for this, and I've charged Dayton $5 for that, and $2 to each, well, keep it, I didn't charge you guys. So I've got $10, because I charge you for mowing your lawns. I have $10 now. You can't say, well, you have to spend it on lawn care. I can spend it on sodas if I want. It's my revenue now. I've charged you under the departments of lawn care $5 each. We've charged from the departments for the common maintenance of the whole facility, the total of $15,740. If we wanna throw a Christmas party with the $15,740, that's just fine. I agree, moving forward, we should have much clearer, not just in the 2 departments that affect you, but in all the departments, a much clearer definition of where did that money go, to whom, why?
I mean, at that rate, we might as well get 2 different meters and put everything that I use on 1 meter and then 1 meter for the township to get a defined amount of how much the fire
How do
department.
you do that? How do you do that when, if you're holding training in here? I'm just throwing it out there. If you're throwing training in here, if the whiteboard's just yours, are we charging you room rent on that wall? I mean, there comes a point where it's, right, it's just ridiculous.
But we're not getting an accurate amount of what it really
You're getting
costs
it much
to run
closer,
of the fire department.
but I mean,
It's never gonna be,
Because I can tell you that on the gas, I pay extreme amount of gas because I have a big, huge thing that has to heat this whole open space.
right,
So I'm going to interject here. I'm moving the 33,740
15,740 in capital outlay.
So we,
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's the 33,740, you're correct, the total amount goes into capital outlay.
so we're gonna take,
I was still stuck on date.
we're gonna take the money in our revenue and then we're going to expend it in our capital outlay.
Correct.
101, 101, 972.
We're gonna budget it for capital outlay, and then who may change as the year goes on.
They're easy.
Alright, moving on.
Yes,
Alright, so that's,
so then that balances the budget,
Yes. If no other changes have been made.
so we can have a motion to approve.
No,
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 we're still in public hearing.
so it's,
that's right, it's, something more things to go in public hearing.
so that changes to.
No.
91,
Those are after public
452,
hearing.
under governing body.
Oh, you're doing the total, I'm still, alright, so this changes to 34, 740.
I thought it was 33, 740.
Right, but there's already 1,000 there. Or no, sorry, there's not. That's,
No,
I was
that's
looking at the wrong
right.
line. Alright, my bad.
Okay,
Alright, what was the total?
91, 452.
Okay. Any more discussion?
that's only for this, $200.
Close the public hearing, 7:07.
707. Open at 707.
Okay, under the exemption.
So-
Have to approve the budget now.
Are we gonna approve the budget now or later?
It's first on your list.
But I mean, you know, I need, yeah, I just was wondering if we were approving now or if we were gonna come back. Cause the only thing, if you come back, number 1 and number 8 are the only two things that we can't approve tonight.
Say that again. Number 1 and number 8 are,
Because the General Appropriations Act is tied right to the budget. I need the exact numbers if anything changes and if Dave does something, otherwise
No, we have those totals.
those
Either
totals
way,
are
so
that, so then,
you just have to change them and then approve it as amended.
cause this 413,815 will go up.
We have,
So I need that number,
alright, we'll get there.
okay.
And wait, on the second page there, we gotta change that date from February 13 to March 24.
What page are you on?
Page 2 of the, poverty exemption.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
which,
When we get down to that,
what item are we on?
We are on number 1.
Oh, we're still on one?
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay. Jim,
This is the change, two changes as far as the totals that I figured out.
okay, I understand what you've done, and I get all that, but I'm still not comfortable with it, so I'm gonna make the motion to approve the budget as originally presented, and you're welcome to make an amendment to that, to your changes, and then we can vote on it that way.
okay, so what exactly is your motion now?
To approve the budget as originally presented. Second?
Second, for discussion. So you're saying that you just want a little more time to look at these numbers and make sure that they all come out?
I think what he's doing is great, and this all needs to be dug into, and
Then why did we just spend the last
Yeah.
hour and a half or whatever, making all the changes specifically to the fire department, if you wanna toss them out?
Cause I've said the whole time, I'm not comfortable with pulling more money from the fire department. And this is what you guys wanted to discuss, so we discussed it.
Then why did you not discuss that you weren't more comfortable with it and argue your point then?
I did, I said, I'm not comfortable with pulling more money, it's fine, I mean,
Why?
you guys can vote me down all you want,
I'm asking, not that, I understand that you're uncomfortable.
Right.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because
Specifics.
specifically, I was letting you go through your list.
No, you were letting me go through my list. Why are you uncomfortable with it?
Oh, I think that there was a amount approved for the fire department, and I think the township needs to take some responsibility for the fire department. Other departments shell out money out of their general fund to their fire departments. Other ones don't charge any rent or don't do anything, and some do charge a little rent.
I disagree that
Don't
the
think
budget was approved, it was a budget that you put forward that didn't take in most of Dayton's changes.
No, I didn't say the budget was approved. I said the millage, was voted on. That's where the people wanted their money to go. I feel like this is,
They want it to go
I just
towards
not
the
comfortable.
operations of the fire department. Rent is part of the operations of the fire department. I don't think that the people would be happy if they had any idea how much money the fire department and the township had in savings. And I think that is a misconception, that the people probably have because they don't attend the meetings. But if you're saying that you think that by charging them a reasonable rate and clarifying, as Jim states, exactly what the fire department, you think they're gonna be angry about that? I think they're gonna be far angrier about how much money
They're being overcharged
they're
by
being overcharged. And
25%
so if you don't
overcharged.
justify why you're charging that amount of money, then people are gonna be angry with you.
And all I've heard so far is you don't like it.
I don't.
That's not a reason.
It is.
It's not a
No.
reason because
No,
it's a
it's-
true
I think it's
cost.
unethical to say, this is what we want for a fire millage, but then the township's gonna pull as much as they can out of it.
This doesn't appear to me like this is really the true feelings of you. This appears to me as this is a political move to try to get reelected. So you're gonna claim that, I mean, seriously, I've had many conversations with Dave and none of them have transpired like this. So I'm entitled to my opinion and I'm just saying that this is not trying to show a true cost
I'm
of the fire
campaigning
department.
to,
So the opinion is.
It's my opinion. It's absolutely my
Yeah,
opinion.
you have your
Dave's opinion.
opinion, that's fine, we can all have our own opinion.
Yeah, and we can. So you seconded it, we said our point, so.
I
got
I
anything
don't
else to say?
understand why if you felt so strongly, why you allowed the last,
And you agreed with parts of it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I
That's
do
crazy.
agree that, yes, to rent that space would cost that much, but
Do you not think that if they had an emergency at the fire department with the amount of savings that we had, if there was a true emergency, if the fire trucks got totaled out there or something happened, that we wouldn't be able to come back here and have a special meeting and say, I make a motion that we transfer $100,000 from the savings that the general fund has to the fire department. Like, if they needed it, I don't think there's anybody, and there was a justified reason, anybody would have a problem doing that. So at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong at all with coming up and saying these are the true costs of what it is to run that fire department.
and what you're saying is
You wanna hide things.
continue to pull one over on the public because it's really not costing that much because we're burying those costs in the operation of the township in other places.
we look at it differently. And like I said, feel free to make your amendment to adopt the changes, and then we'll vote on that.
I make an amendment that we adopt the changes as we've been discussing for the past 2 hours.
I'll second.
Jim is going to amend,
And it's fine if you wanna go on record that you don't like them.
you're amending the motion to adopt the changes that we
That we discussed during,
discussed, yes.
discussed and balanced during the public hearing. And agreed to during the public hearing.
discussed and balanced. Okay. Stop changes that we discussed and balanced in public hearing.
We agreed to all of them.
We did.
Didn't. Okay.
By allowing it to move on to the next item, that's agreeing. The way that it was all done, it was you were definitely implying that you were agreeing.
So we're gonna go first on the amendment.
I just have to say, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Dayton does not have a problem with showing the true cost of the fire department. Dayton does not have a problem, from what he stated, of putting that down and, you know, it doesn't have a problem with what we proposed for the budget, or what Jim proposed for the budget.
I have a problem of getting it 2 days before this.
Well, so did we all,
So
have not
that's-
enough time to
That's my
review
problem.
this.
That's
Agreed.
where, so my feeling is, great work. Why don't we approve it the way that it was done? We found out problems. Let's do that for next year, so it can be a complete, clear-cut thing. So I have time to do everything, because to be honest, I agreed to these to move it along, because we're 2.5 hours into this darn thing. I agreed to it. Do I
So-
truly feel comfortable? No, I don't. Will it work? I will try to make it work,
What
but I
do you
don't
think
feel
is not gonna
comfortable
work?
with it. And so I would rather go back the other way, so then I can go through everything that he did, and then we can start out the way that we wanna do it. I just, the 2-day notice, that's when I got it. I don't know who's to blame or whatever. If, like I said, all this should have started back in October,
Yes.
like it's supposed to be done, but it didn't. So now this is where we're at.
I
And
don't
it's a
disagree,
bunch
that's the
of,
problem.
So,
it's a bunch of huge mumble jungle mess.
so,
I don't even completely understand. I don't have numbers. I don't know. I don't know. I agreed to it based on your guys' recommendations, and that's how, because I don't have all the
Okay, so
numbers,
tell me
and
what,
I don't understand
so
it.
just hold on. So tell me one line item that we changed that you strongly disagree with, and why?
I think all
Because
of it,
you already
that's what-
stated your agreement to them as we went through them.
Because I agreed to it to move along the process, because I don't
But we're
completely
not moving along
understand
now, are we?
it. What?
But
We're not moving along now.
What-
So
No,
again,
you're on a motion. You do your motion.
Well,
we're in discussion and you
now, so
brought, so I'm,
I wanna put a
So
comment in there too. I
Right.
don't think anybody is trying to hide anything. I think everybody is trying to work on this together, but I do think that there is still quite a bit of confusion of where these numbers are and where they go,
so.
but I don't think anybody's trying to hide anything.
So if I can summarize, even though we just spent 2 hours and everyone agrees that it was interesting and good work and that I made a number of great points, we don't care, we're gonna continue to do a sloppy job and just throw in numbers that we're doing exactly what the MTA says we shouldn't do. We're pulling numbers out of thin air. You're budgeting against budgets, you're not budgeting against actual experience. And as we discussed, and, you know, it making it difficult to understand or to move forward with anything that either you, Dave, or you, Dayton, are saying, because Bly is just saying it to be a nice guy to move things along.
What did you
That's
want me to
not-
do, try to shut you down?
To argue your point. Saying I don't like it is not an argument, that's a
I
feeling.
mean, heck.
I don't think it's
I don't
ethical to
forward-
try to pull money out
Why?
of it, because I just don't think it is.
That is not an answer, that's
You're
a
not
position.
pulling money, you're charging them for what they're using, and you, line 4 is,
Then find out how much I actually pull, how much money, how much electricity do I pull, and then charge me that amount. But you can't. So maybe we need to look at somehow to figure that out.
okay,
You're just throwing numbers out there.
I mean, the amount we pulled-
5.8%.
Covers
What the
everything
total
that we
is.
spend for the building,
no, it doesn't.
minus the, what is it, capital outlay or whatever for 30,000. The 33 covers more than the 31 that we actually pay for, or we budgeted for gas, electric, lawn care.
That's all I wanna know. I personally just wanna know, how much electricity do I use? What's the total cost of electricity that I use? What's the total cost of gas, cause we have natural gas. That's what I wanna know.
There's a
But-
lot of little
but
things
we
in here
don't-
that
but
like,
we
you
don't.
wanna break it, do you pay, okay, so, look, if you wanna break everything down, do you pay for your own toilet paper and your own bathroom there? Do you pay for your own paper and
No,
your own?
maybe I should.
That's what I'm saying, like,
How
there's a
much
lot
is
of things, I don't know.
Okay,
So,
but we don't know. All we are is pulling numbers out of thin air.
we're charging you a
We're not
fee,
pulling
we're not pulling numbers
What?
out, we're,
Do you know how much? How much toilet paper do I use? What's that cost?
You're being ridiculous at this
No,
point.
you're pulling out numbers towards that. You said, okay, we're gonna do whatever, 5.8%
what I'm saying
of
is
that,
there's a lot
of
of
that
things, there's a lot of
$34,000
advantages.
or that 15. So that's what I'm trying to get at, is how much money does it really cost? Yes, but we need to do those things. But you only wanna take it so far, or pull numbers out of thin air, the 5.7% of this total of 38, I don't know, cause I don't have the numbers. So I don't know, but if we're gonna do it and adequately and correctly show what it takes for the department, then we need to do that. And so I think we need a year to sit there and let's take this year and actually break things down to say, okay, it really cost you $18,000 for toilet paper. Okay,
I
it cost you
Okay.
$22,000
We
for
get
electric.
your point, Dayton.
We get-
And if,
yeah.
if,
Wait a
if
minute, you
if we're
told,
gonna.
you just yelled at him for not defending what he's saying. I'm trying to defend it, and now you're trying to shut me down.
No, you're
How
trying
can
to.
I defend it if you're shutting me down?
Okay,
Right, so I
Call
just
the
wanna say this, so a lot of these little
No.
things in here are not, well, I have something else to
No.
say.
Calling this
You
question
can't call a
does not
question when
mean-
there's discussion, and I have
Calling this
something else
question
to
does
say.
not mean that it ends discussion.
Yeah,
No, it does
No, it
not.
doesn't. Let's argue
I'll
that
bet you
point for an
dinner
hour.
on that one and you'll
So-
lose.
you can vote.
I get what
Call the
you're
question.
saying, I get what everybody's saying here, that there are a lot of changes and a lot of things that you're not understanding of why to do them, right? But at the same time, if we just go ahead and pass this budget as presented in here, there are some pretty damn big jumps in here that I'm not okay with. And so we gotta go through all this whole budget all over again, because we can't just go accept your budget or accept his budget, because I'm not okay, no matter which budget we would decide to do with at all, with changing him to the 38, well, I'm so confused now which ones. So where we've not spent, where we're gonna move $65,000 to salaries for part-time wages. So that's gotta be changed in here at some point, or there's gotta be a discussion about that. So if we're not gonna adapt what he said, and we're not gonna adapt what you said, we can't just adapt what you said, because we haven't gone through this budget line
We
by
haven't
line.
discussed it.
We have discussed it.
We
But
went
it would
through
be
line by line.
totally- it
There
would-
was no discussion until we got to,
Because we made those achievements when we went through his, so it would,
The time to
would
object
be
to any of this
totally-
is when
yes.
we're going through this, Dave, not to waste 2 hours of our time going through it in detail.
Why didn't
it would
somebody
Agreeing
say
with
totally
it.
be irresponsible for all of
I
us
said
here
at the very
to
beginning,
vote to
I-
pass the original budget. It would be totally irresponsible for any one of us to say yes to this budget as is.
You didn't articulate any of your reasons, and just being against it is not a reason. It's a position.
That's my position.
Without,
So I guess
without
we-
any reason.
Take a
I
vote
don't
and
think
start
it's
over.
ethical to try to pull the money from the fire department.
Who's it
Why?
unethical to?
Okay, let
Who's
me.
the
that
taxpayers who voted to pass the millage to run the fire department.
Right, which that's what they're doing. We're not taking any more money we're not charging more than he's bringing in. Nobody's doing that.
We're
And
not
just
cutting
asking-
any of his expenses.
We're not cutting, we're not letting him have any single thing that he wants to have. Anything he wants to buy for the fire department, he has always gotten permission to do, except he has one instance years ago, I don't know what that is about. But every other time he's been allowed to purchase what he,
That was Dave.
okay, whatever. Okay, so Dayton himself has never not got anything he's wanted for the fire department. We have the money there, we have the monies in savings for anything he wants, so how are we being unethical to the residents? We are being unethical to not show what they are actually paying for and getting for their money.
And you're being selectively objectionable. If you think it's unethical to charge him from the 2 departments, why is it ethical at all to charge him rent?
Exactly.
You put $6,000 forward for rent. Man, are you unethical?
I guess I am.
You're not being consistent. And you're also not giving, other than not liking it, you're not giving reasons.
I've given reason, Jim. It's not a reason you wanna hear, but I disagree with pulling $33,000 from the fire department.
We are not shorting the fire department in any way from operating, not one way. We are showing true cost of what it takes to, with this budget. I can't say we, I'm saying
No,
Jim
that's the-
is showing true estimated cost, which is what a budget is. It is a far more accurate, true synopsis of what it costs to run the fire department. That's what that budget is. What this budget is a bunch of overinflated things. Unless you're gonna jump your salaries way up, unless you're gonna jump other things way up just to try to meet his budget, then that's a far more accurate budget of what it costs to run there. Yes, not everything's perfect. Yes, there's little things that we're throwing in, whatever.
I'm gonna change this from fire chief to the board. Should be expected to develop a proposed budget and justify to the board all proposed line item amounts. Proposed expenditures should not be pulled out of thin air or be simple inflations of current year expenditures. Should be based on a plan that anticipates department activities and needs. We covered every
So tell me
single,
which one you want.
we
He
covered,
already went through them.
we covered,
No, the payroll, I did the payrolls because I want to have somebody sitting here to run calls, to justify getting a quicker response time. And if you don't understand that, I'll tell you right now, I'll show you, I'll write it on the board. Oh, I can't write it on the board. So, the tones go out, right? I'm at home. I live 5 miles away, correct? Going 55 miles an hour, how long does it take to get to the station? Tell me.
You're not allowed to
you
speak.
tell me.
No, you're not allowed to speak.
You're the
You're
one
right, 5
explaining it, you tell
What?
me.
Are you really 5 miles?
55 miles
I
an
said,
hour.
are you really 5 miles away?
Yeah.
I didn't think that was it. Okay.
So, well, say I do speed. Don't say, but for an easy estimate
5 minutes.
of 60 miles an hour, it's 5 minutes, right? A minute to 2 minutes to get your gear on, get the truck started, raise the garage door, and pull out. Now, where do you want to put the fire or the call? You want to put it back at my house or across the street for easy? That's 5 miles, right? If the call is actually across the street from my house. So that's 5 miles back, right? So that's another 5 minutes of response time. So now you're at 10 plus the 2 minutes that it took to go, right? The 2 minutes to get ready. So now you're at 12 minutes. So on average, it'll take 12 minutes for a call across the street from my house if I'm the only one that responded. If somebody's already sitting here, you took away 5 minutes.
Okay, well, Dayton, on the, if you're gonna.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
if you're thinking it's a cardiac arrest, right? You start losing brain stuff 6 to 8 minutes. Well, maybe you live, maybe you don't. Maybe you die. Don't know. We can't justify it because he's got a plan. But maybe cutting off 5 minutes for somebody being here saved that life. That's the difference of having somebody here. If it wasn't a good thing, why does not every, but why do large departments do it?
Do every department doesn't do it?
No, they don't do it.
No, not every department does it.
Most
Homestead
don't.
doesn't because they don't do it. I'm trying to get to better our service, to better for our township to have that.
So are you,
So-
are you admitting that you've been providing a substandard service?
Not substandard. I've been doing service. I'm trying to make it better.
When we had,
At what expense?
And Dayton,
At what expense of, obviously sitting here and raising the wages up. That's the expense. But we don't wanna spend that money, we wanna put it other places, that's fine, whatever.
I know when we first brought when you first brought that to the board and we started doing it, there were a lot of, actually there were a lot of residents that appreciated that fact that our response time, our fire department's response time was so well. And we because they got called out.
Well,
Frankfurt has full-time
I will-
staffing every day. The only departments in this township that doesn't is
The county.
Thompsonville, Homestead, and us.
I have a couple things to say and to address this, okay? So I'm not telling you how to run your department, but there are statistics that I wanna see that show that what you're saying is accurate, because I've had, well, honestly, like, how many times has it actually saved somebody greatly to have somebody sit here? How many times has that person sat here and not gone out? And the heart attack example you gave us, EMS is actually the one who's gonna take care of that. As you stated to me the other day, we're backup. They're the
We're
ones who are
first-
gonna
we're
take care of,
first responders.
right? So,
We're first responders.
well, let me finish, and then when the last time there was this conversation, we were gonna sneak in a special meeting to make the fire department have somebody full-time sitting in the back room, this boardroom was packed and people were pissed. That's the last, do none of you remember that?
I
Because
remember
we
that.
were gonna sneak that in. We put
There
it
was
on,
no sneaking that in.
yes, there was, it
How
was,
was that sneaking that in? He
Because
gave
we
two
had a public-
projections.
okay.
It was a
We had a-
special
it was
meeting
a-
on
And-
January 30th.
And
That's
we,
not
and
for
at the meeting prior to that special meeting where we announced that we were gonna hold a special meeting, it was stated, the only thing we're gonna discuss at the public meeting is passing the budget, the only thing. So nobody was gonna show up and well, we'll put it this way, so we put it in the notice, yes, we did. But
I'm
we had
listening.
announced to the people that we were only gonna do the budget. So unless you watched the door, that was the only way you knew that the fire department was added on there. And the people who were here stating their objection to making people sit there full time, all felt like they were trying to get one pulled over by. Every person almost in this room said that.
It wouldn't have been me, because I've openly said that it would take a lot for me to be full-time here.
Right, and then also, I wanna state, this part of sitting in there, I'm not saying, I don't know what the difference is, and you're right, it could make a difference in somebody's life. Is it making a difference in a car accident in everybody's life? It could in some, right? It may not in others. So where does that cost, where do we decide what that is? So I don't think that's a decision we make right here of what your salary is for that without bringing that to an actual meeting to the public. And also, I did some research, and I've called several fire departments, and most of them say that they do not feel that is a good use of their money.
For having full-time staffing.
To have people sitting there for a volunteer fire department.
And if you're gonna argue that $65,000 or $72,000 is going to save a life, why not make it 100? Why not make it
Exactly, where do you
150?
draw that line?
You don't, but that's how much money that I had, that I put towards that.
As I said, you've got at least $58,000 on average the last 3 years that haven't been spent. Why not add that to it? Why not make it 125,000?
Those numbers are wrong, because you're not adding, because some of that money is.
Why
from-
not make it more?
from the-
Stop trying to be as specific to
I'm
argue.
trying to understand what you're saying.
Make it more. Why not? Why did you cut it from 72 to 65? Did we just lose a life by doing that?
We might have,
Well,
we don't
how
know.
heartless of you then.
Well, it is,
Well, show us,
but,
Then
but,
why-
but,
then
then
why-
you're taking $34,000 out of my budget too.
Then why did you only spend 36,000 on average over the last 3 years?
Because it's offered up to the firefighters, and a lot of them are working during the day that they don't sit. They can't, a lot of them would sit, but they can't because they have full-time jobs.
You have excess funds and contingency that if you wanna pay more to do that, you're free to do that. I think it's a bad idea. I agree with Therese. I don't think most fire departments actually do that.
and most importantly, like I said,
All
the
of them in
people
Grand
don't want
Traverse
it.
County do that.
Grand Traverse County is run very differently than Benzie County.
All of them in Benson County, except for 3 out of the 6 do it.
Except for 3 out of the 6, that's about half.
One only runs 100 calls, and their budget, I don't even know, and they're actually looking at kind of doing a millage to put out a full-time chief. But that's a different story too.
That's their
Exactly,
calendar.
that's their thing. But that's what I'm trying to do, is have somebody here to cut down their response times.
What,
It's
how
the
much?
same thing, it's the same thing as you paying car insurance. Why are you paying car insurance?
It's the law,
You're not gonna use it.
it's the law,
Why are you paying house insurance?
because my mortgage requires me to.
You don't have to.
Yes, it does.
You don't
My
have
mortgage
to.
company will add it
You
on
don't- you don't
themselves
have
if I
to
don't
pay
pay it,
car
so
insurance
yes, I do.
No, you don't,
I go to jail if I don't.
if you're caught, but you don't have to.
Well,
You know how many people out there that don't have car insurance?
well, that's on
And
their,
they're not going to jail. They just pay the
but
fine.
it is a law.
But that's
We're
part
not
of the
breaking any
thing.
laws by not having
is
somebody sit here.
By, it's a
It's not an
what if
argument.
case.
It's not an
It's a
argument.
what if case, the same thing with everything, health insurance.
Well,
You're
no,
not required to pay for health
you,
insurance.
Okay.
you should be able to keep some documentation, honestly, like, you should be willing and wanting to share that information. If you can show that the people sitting there has saved anybody's response time, I would think you'd be happy to share that.
Wouldn't you want me to? You
How
wanna
does
sit
it not
and
save the
pay for
response
5
time to have
minutes
somebody
longer?
already here, they're
I'm
not
not
driving
saying
in?
that the
Because
response time is
how
going
many
to
times
save
do
your
do they
life.
leave here when there is nobody here? What's that ratio to how many times? Are we gonna staff this 24 hours a day, every day? Can we afford to do that?
No,
So at
you
what
can't.
point, that's what I'm saying, at what point are we showing that it's worth the cost?
I think we drifted away from the original, point here.
Yeah, I think so too. But we haven't drifted away from the fact, or we have drifted away, but we need to, like, we can't pass this budget without going through it.
And why didn't anybody bring anything up when we were going?
Because we were basing it all, because everybody did appear that they were on board with this, and then making the adjustments to this as needed. But if we're gonna go back and we're gonna just ignore everything we just talked about, then we have to go back through all of these things.
I don't think we were planning to ignore everything. I think there was a question.
I offered the suggestion of
Putting everything.
a line item for him to put money for saving for a truck. Nobody liked that idea, but I don't feel like taking out of the fire department is a good idea.
Okay, well, then I suggest that you find out the laws about having, how much money you can have in savings.
Okay.
Go ahead and roll call the amendment.
Amendment?
Read the amendment again, please, just to make sure.
To adopt changes that we discussed and balanced during the public hearing and agreed to.
Close enough.
Do I need to add something else?
The agreed to is in the wrong place, but
Oh, well, that was before,
Dutch English is just fine.
Can you
put
include
it up there.
Jim's name in there so we can clearly distinguish between the two?
It is Jim moved to adopt the changes.
Which changes she's talking about?
You didn't state that in your motion that was seconded.
That's why she's making the suggestion now.
She said to include.
Okay, I'll make a
You
motion
said
to-
Jim's
The motion
name.
has already been made.
You said Jim's name.
I said, can we add Jim's name to that line so that we can distinguish which one we're actually voting on? And that anybody reading it
This
knows
is
for
the
sure.
amended motion, move made by Jim to
Okay,
adopt
that-
changes that we discussed and,
I don't think either of us heard that.
You didn't read the Jim part, so that would have
well,
clarified it
it was
right
the
there.
amended motion, what I said
That was
first.
Lisa's whole point.
So there we are. Okay, Brower,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Zelinski,
Yes?
Worth. Yes. Davis.
No.
Okay, now, motion made by Dave to approve as to approve the budget as originally presented.
Right, but it'll be with the amendment, so. Go ahead.
Right, we still have Brower.
This is with,
Yeah, that was
Yes.
confusing, can we, so,
Okay. The amendments are now made to the budget. Now we're approving the budget.
Right,
okay,
right.
I just want to clarify that, make sure
Yeah,
that we're.
that amendment changed that motion, so it
Got
all
ya.
says the same thing.
Got ya, perfect.
So Brower,
yes.
Miller,
No.
Zelinski,
Yes,
Worth, yes. Davis,
Motion carries, budget passed.
Can we take a break before we hit anything else?
can we just go, or unless you give for the bathroom, because I
I just have to use the restroom.
Recess at what time?
7:40.
Thank you. That was fast.
Are there waters in the kitchen?
Yes.
While you're back there, were you getting
No, it's
another
just
one
one
while
out
you're
the
there?
front because that's fire department water.
Okay.
Well, we'll give you a roll of toilet paper for it.
Well, I mean, you want true cost.
Well,
I mean, what?
as close
I
as
mean, I got a lot of
possible.
township stuff over in my space too, I'll bring over here and put in this room.
That's fine,
Fine, you can put it in that room too.
yeah,
That's fine.
there's no room in that room.
There's a lot of room in there, but.
No, because there's,
Or do you move the filing cabinet?
I'm not moving that sign down.
Jim wants to make that his office anyway.
What?
Yeah. He's like, I always go into these files anyway, I might as well just sit in here.
Thank you so much. Well, we could add on to the building for more office space.
Where are you gonna add on?
Parking lot, that direction.
Well, we can do some research on the gas line, because they moved the one at the school to put a weight room addition on. And they charge the school no money. DTE moved a big, huge gas main for no
It wasn't,
money.
it wasn't an 8-inch gas main.
I don't know, that's what I'm saying, I'd like to see, because if they move that one, I can't imagine that one's like hundreds of thousands to move for no
Yeah,
charge.
That's hundreds of thousands to move this.
Oh, wait, now she was waiting for that bathroom, I would've used the other one.
No, they don't charge you to use the bathroom. The yard not there. Oh, that's
All
not what you
township
need
stuff.
there,
Doesn't matter, it's all township
We're not
stuff.
discussing it, I'm just gonna write it.
no, oh, I know, this is what you
Yeah.
need.
Right, so we're on to properties, oh, we got it.
Back in session, 7:43.
Poverty exemption. It's resolution 2024-01
On the second page,
of the poverty resolution, okay,
3 lines from the bottom, board held on March
yep,
26,
got it,
2024.
yep,
Thank you.
okey dokey.
Can you walk me through what this is all about?
This is required, it's what the Board of Review bases their, poverty exemptions off of for that.
Yeah, we can reduce their taxes by 25, 50, or 75, or 100%. But it's based on these amounts of, basically that show that they're below these levels.
This is what he was talking about in the pre-meeting.
And Jim, in the time that I've been here, nobody's actually used this ever, because it's paying for them to file for the papers.
But it's required by law that we do this.
Yes, and we did do it this year, so.
This one doesn't have a comma in the rest, we're just under number 2.
Yeah, I got that.
Alright. With the comma, we'll say, make a motion that we approve the poverty exemption, resolution number 2024-01
I'll second it.
with the addition of the comma
And date change.
and date change.
People
Yeah.
who had to leave. Maybe Lon, this is from the salary committee put together, cause they couldn't be here for the next part. Do we vote?
Okay, are we ready then? So it's property exemption resolution 2024-01 with additions of comma and date change, seconded by Jim.
No discussion? Go ahead and roll call.
Brower,
Yes.
Miller. Yes. Zelinski,
Yes.
Ford, yes, Davis.
Yes.
Who's this from?
Laura,
Yeah, Laura left it, but Laura and Jim Clark, I believe, put it together. I'm not sure which one is officially the chair. So, because I think I'm the only one here on the committee, I will, I'm sure you've all had a chance to read this. And being that we can make changes on the budget going forward, it is not, we are not quite being legal with the way that we are doing our salaries. And so in order to do that correctly, and we're a little farther on this, we've got some townships, population and tax base wise to compare to. The thing is some, as I'm sure you're aware, there's one township in northern Michigan that's 3 people more than us, but they get over 4 times as much money into their township off their tax base than we do.
For 3 people?
Yes, well, because I wouldn't have guessed that they would because they're by Kuwait.
Can I move there?
Yeah, right? Well, that means that you're
I don't know
paying,
if we can afford it.
well, yeah, that means you're paying a lot more or they're getting, for your taxes. So, and it was a little township called Mildred outside of Keewatin on the other side, so I thought they were comparable because it's never, they don't have a lot of water. They must have some more than we do. I'm not sure about that because Kuwait doesn't. Anyway, so that's what we're trying to narrow down is who to compare to. But in the meantime, like anything that is not, that we have lumped into our policies and procedures manual, that is not truly a statutory duty, we cannot pay for that in the salary. We have long done it, almost every township does it, doesn't make it legal, and it's not. So if we're gonna do a true comparison of salaries, I think we should make it legal. So with that said, every single job description that is paid in a wage from here, the recommendation from MTA is that you have a thorough job description. In that job description is exactly what you expect, who that person answers to, whether it be the board, and what you pay for that position. So it should be done for zoning administrator, it should be done for cleaning, it should be done for cemeteries, it should be done for calendar, it should be done for any duty that is not by there.
tried
And
to
so
do that years ago, and I got told that it's included in your salary.
it is
No,
not
it's
included, and this thing with
Well,
the
I think that's
this
I
thing
know.
included with the 9 days for the election has brought a lot of attention to how people are doing it. There are townships who have flat out given their clerks more money just for the months that there's an election, which is also
Can't do
illegal
that.
to do. I read it on their websites, and they're
I
doing
know
it. So some of them are raising it, and the fact of the matter is that by law, we cannot pay them any money for those 9 days. It is part of their statutory duties of running an election. And they're not required to be here. So there's a lot that has to go into this, and so we are doing our best to try to make sure we're all on the same page, get those job descriptions written, get them approved, and then also make recommendations, because we feel that our committee would like to make those recommendations and then have the board vote on them as far as the things that are not statutory duties and who's gonna do them and for what compensation. So with that being said, we feel at this time, because it's not taking effect immediately, that because you cannot go backwards in a salary unless it's the start of a new election cycle. That's the only time you can. So we could make a motion right now to lower everybody down to $10,000 at the next thing. We can do that at the next thing, because there's no guarantee any of us will be here. And so, we can do that, but that's the only time you can do it is at an election year, is lower it down. So unless you wanna do something like that, then I am proposing that we make no changes whatsoever until we do get a complete report from the compensation committee. So that's my motion. I make a motion that we make no adjustments.
You don't have to make a motion, if we're not gonna discuss them, we don't have to.
Okay, but they're all on this thing,
Right.
Right.
so,
But if we choose not to discuss them,
okay. So that's my, okay, whatever you guys have to
But
say, then
we
say.
still have to pass them at least the same amount, right?
no,
We don't
No,
have to
they're on
pass them?
we don't have to,
No,
we're not
we
gonna,
just effectively did by adopting the budget. They're in the budget,
Right.
so at the
I just
same
wasn't
amount,
sure if we had to have a
No,
resolution.
can change those anytime.
Okay.
So,
All right, so was there any changes to the salary and wage
yes,
schedule
there was, mileage,
mileage?
.67 cents.
I'm just curious on that, and obviously I get that, so I'm just curious, because that's the federal tax, and why do we use that over the state allowed amount?
That is our state amount.
Cause it's
It
higher.
was in the MTA
Was
journal.
it in there? Because I just
I
read
don't
today,
know.
unless theirs was incorrect, that that the state amount is less.
I thought that's what I saw in the MTA journal.
They probably say that you can, I'm sure
We
it is
can,
legal.
we can use any number we want, actually.
Right.
Oh.
I'm just curious why we chose that, and if we've always chose that.
Yep, it always shows the, whatever whatever the mileage rate is for the year, whatever pops up.
Yeah, there's a 65.5, it's not that much difference.
Well, that was what
That's what
last
this
year's
is.
was 6.
Oh, that's, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
they raised
okay.
it to 67 cents even.
Yeah,
That was
67.
it.
Oh, it's 67
Oh,
now?
sorry, state of Michigan,
State of Michigan.
So,
67?
67 cents.
67.
Oh, okay, so we're
Yeah.
raising it to that, okay.
All the other
I
numbers,
wish I read it.
I don't know that we have to go with the federal or the state.
Yeah,
All the other numbers are the same,
yeah,
or haven't changed from last year.
correct.
So nothing was said in the, wage committee about, rise of cost of living?
Well, because because if we give you that now, let's say we give that now, and then we come back and we split these things off, and then we look at what people in our townships are paying, we don't wanna add any money there at this time because, we can't take that back once we do that. So we wanna get what.
Basically, they just wanna leave everything on hold until they make their decision.
Right.
That's their suggestion. We as a board can say, no, I want my 3.2%, and we can do that, or we can take their suggestion.
And honestly, at this point, like, also, in truly, like, most of the board is probably getting underpaid.
Correct.
So, I don't think it's a risk to say, let's postpone this, I mean, unless you,
Oh, I would also say it would look in bad form if we don't listen to the committee that we formed
Right.
to report on
right,
this.
right.
I think let them make their decision and we'll go off
and
of that.
unfortunately, it's, right, it's more complicated than we realize starting this.
So we're gonna,
So we need to approve the salary wage schedule.
we're gonna skip 3 through 6,
Well,
or table, or however you want to do it.
No,
So I think we
if
need
they
to
come
do
back up,
3
they come back up, but
from-
no reason to set a timeline on it, cause we don't know the answer.
because we just make a note in there that per the committee, they want.
So is anything else changing on this here, any of these costs?
Salary and wage, was just the mileage.
Mhm.
Oh, that's the only thing that's changed, okay.
I make a motion that we approve the salary and wage schedule 2024, 2025.
Second,
So because this is like.
Yeah, that
we
was
don't
for
get any
that,
money, we need to fill in the blanks.
yeah,
You're gonna use
Yours,
you're gonna use the current one?
well, actually,
The salary.
use current wages, use current salary.
Yes. So we're talking 22,860 for supervisor, 24 for clerk, 22,860 for treasurer, 2,601 for trustees,
Good-
assessor at
Good catch,
6,000.
Dayton.
So,
Leaving the zeros.
Fire chief at 18,000. Assistant fire chief, 7,200. And
Is the salary
and
committee,
staff.
they're looking at all salaries, right?
Well,
they can only technically look
I
at
know.
salaries.
Right.
well, we are looking at all of the pays, and yes, you're right, like technically,
No,
we can't,
You can
I
make
mean,
it,
if we voted for, I don't know what the exact wording of what for the board to put the committee together, so I
Right.
can't state that.
Salary committee, but yeah.
right, no, well, it's not so much the
Part of
hourly
doing the
stuff.
compensation thing correctly is figuring out a fair wage for the other things as well, in my opinion. So if you wanna just say we shouldn't do that at all, that's fine,
No,
but
No.
then we need to make a new wage committee, because I
No.
think
No,
all
no,
wages should be
no,
looked at.
No.
you guys can look at that too and recommend those
Right.
additional wages.
I just wasn't sure if-
Salary.
Cause Dayton said no one's really talked to him yet, so I wasn't sure.
And comment
Honestly,
later.
we weren't gonna talk to Dayton, as far as I know, he hasn't been on our list because we figured we didn't really have say in that Dayton determines and recommends his,
I don't.
No,
You
the
guys
board,
set that.
board sets
The
it.
board
well, you
sets
set your
it.
budget.
Right, but I
Well,
usually tell them,
would
hey,
choose the same amount,
you're, yeah,
and
Well,
then by law, the board
We would be happy to include the fire chief, and honestly, we haven't got that far, cause we're trying to still get
And,
the
and
numbers.
it's hard to do because find another township that runs as many calls as we do for how much money we bring in, because Homestead runs more calls with less money.
But we don't have those accurate numbers
Well,
anyway.
exactly, and you can't really go by our township, because the three chiefs that aren't full-time are, the run volumes and their income, their tax base is way like this.
Well, right.
Yeah.
We would be
I'm
happy,
fine
and I
with-
think some
I'm
people
fine
would
with
like us
what
to
we
look
are.
at it, so
Yeah.
I mean, if you could provide us with numbers, just to start getting those numbers ready in case we do get that far, that would be great, if you could tell us like, how many calls in an entire year, how many calls,
okay.
and all that, and breakdown, and how many calls that you're backing up, how many EMS, how many fires.
Yep,
I would just kick to your committee that you can report in phases too.
Right, that's
Report,
our plan,
okay.
we're starting with salaries and we're working our way down.
alright. We can roll call this one?
Sure. Brower,
Yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Zelinski,
Yes.
Worth, yes, Davis.
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay.
General Appropriations Act.
Yeah, that will change to resolution number 2024-02. And the dates in section 2 will change to March 14th to March 26th. And the general fund in section 6 for revenues and expenditures will change to $447,555. For 206 fire
which was a 217,600.
will change to
The number
216,463.
216 what?
463. And on the back page, under section 13, dates will change to March 26th.
And that's on there twice.
Yes.
26th